Good afternoon, everyone. Jane Monreal here with you. It is 12:30 Thursday afternoon here in Charlotte. Thanks for joining us. If you downloaded the WCNC Plus app to your Fire TV, welcome aboard. We appreciate you. We appreciate all our viewers and listeners. Jane here with you in the live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. So we're going to bring you the news as it happens. We're going to take you out right now. Should we just show this live picture of Gastonia, Carlene?
This is the Ghost Peppers. This is the Kermont Health Ballpark. They're setting up. I looked it up because I was like, why are there chairs on the field? This is going to be Gaston College's commencement ceremony is tomorrow. So this is them setting up the stage and everything for the graduates to walk. So congrats to the grads.
Congratulations, graduates, and welcome to the working world.
Welcome to the real world.
To the real world. Good luck to you. Also, welcome to Charlotte, folks of the fans of golf in the PGA Championship. It is happening right now at Quail Hollow. They teed off this morning, starting around 7 this morning. So after all of that rain, things are beginning to dry out. Our Daniel Stein actually talked to Scott Van Pelt, if you're familiar with that name. ESPN's one of their star commentators and anchors there for SportsCenter and other shows. He's here in town checking out the scene. And our Nick Carboni also spoke with the president of Quail Hollow Club, Johnny Harris, as he previews the PGA Championship. A big weekend here in Charlotte. Let's play for you now these interviews on WCNC Plus.
I guess this is a welcome to Charlotte, but also for the first time I hear, welcome to Quail Hollow Club, Scott Van Pelt. What are your initial impressions of the club so far?
It's awfully wet. It's really wet. Thank you so much for the many, many inches of rain that welcomed us. My feet are sopping wet, my shoes are ruined. But I mean, the golf course is really wet. The greens are really firm, which is kind of interesting, but the golf course is just what I thought it would be. I mean, I've watched it for years on television. Oddly, in all my years covering golf, I hadn't been here, so that's why I was just out walking with some of the guys to get a sense of the course, because when you're going to be on all day, you'd like to have some idea what you're talking about. But Loved the golf course is awesome. The people are incredible. We went to a place called Moosehead Grill, unsolicited plug, had wings, fantastic, and we'll be off and running Thursday morning.
We're going to ask you more about those wings later, but I know you just walked with JT. When you're out there from a broadcaster's perspective, what are you looking for as you're doing these walkthroughs and learning a course for the first time that you're going to be taking into your call for this week?
We're on the air for hours. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours and hours. So what I want to know, and you're walking with Maverick McNeely, Max Homa, Justin Thomas. Justin and Max have both won here. They can help give me intel on what's your aim point on this hole, what bunkers are you trying to deal with, what's an absolutely dead spot on the course. I'm staying away from this. I'll try to drive 14, the par 4, or I won't. Anything that might help the viewer at home understand the insight of the process from the player's perspective. And then also just walking it, the rough's actually not that deep, but it's pretty thick. The rough on the side of 14 would probably stop a golf ball if it were to roll there. I mean, you just want to educate yourself so that when you're describing the action, you're able to describe it from the perspective of having walked it and seen it. And like a football game is pretty simple, right? It's a 100-yard field. We get it. Well, every golf course is different. There are 18 unique holes on every course you play. So I just want to understand them as best as I can so that as I'm trying to explain what we're seeing, you can provide the context. So also it's just fun. These are great guys it's a fun walk. Everybody's busting each other's chops, having a laugh. It's a great way to spend a morning.
I know you were mentioning that a lot of these golfers have golfed here before, but here for a PGA championship, it's been a bit. Justin was even saying it doesn't really carry over that he's the last winner of this event here because it's changed so much. It is a different month. It was Bermuda versus everything is different. So what are the challenges that the PGA Championship presents that it's in a different location year after year as a major?
Well, you're right. Everything you said is true. And there's a familiarity, though, that these players do have with this place. I think that helps a lot because, for instance, in the last, say, 3 years, we went to Kiowa, we went to Oak Hill in New York, we went to Valhalla last year in Louisville. And players maybe had played there some they hadn't played at all. Here you have so much more information about the golf course. It's like a book that you've at least read, or at least you've thumbed through, or maybe you've read it and you've read it and you know it well. But there is the difference. There's a Wanamaker Trophy. A major championship provides a buzz that's just different than a regular week. And this isn't a regular tour stop. This is a big time tour stop. But it's a PGA Championship just takes a magnifying glass and adds it, because I always say these weeks are kingmakers. You win one of these and you're remembered forever. And JT's a PGA champion here and at Southern Hills, where we were a couple of years before that. When you win these, you become a player who they talk about 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. They'll probably talk about Rory 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, who's won here 4 times, but there's some winners on non-major years that maybe they're not remembered in the same way that the winner this week will be remembered. So that's really the magnifier. The fact that there's a Wanamaker, the fact that not us, but just the golf world pays much closer attention starting Thursday morning to this event than they would when it was, just the event at Quail Hollow. And I want to make that clear. It's never just, this is not a garden variety tour event. Johnny does a hell of a job. But this week's different. He'd tell you that.
In your role with SportsCenter, you talk about a lot of sports. Golf is clearly a passion of yours.
For sure.
Where does that begin? I know you had stops at the Golf Channel as well. Where did the passion for the sport begin?
I got really lucky, and I got a chance to intern at the Golf Channel when it just began. And from there, I stumbled my way onto the air, and I met a guy named Tiger Woods. That was a good dude to meet. He became who he became, and I was as you may be able to tell, I played basketball and baseball. Golf was something I enjoyed, but it wasn't my thing. But by being involved in the game for now 30 years, I mean, I have such an appreciation for the history, the difficulty, the ethic that's part of being a great champion. So it started as a happy accident, and now, all these years later, it's something I'm really, really passionate about doing. It's such a thrill and an honor to be the person who's getting to host, from a major championship.
In terms of the broadcasting of it, how do you find it different in terms of covering golf compared to covering other sports?
It's not as different as you might think. I mean, there's a certain, I think, it's like rooms in the house. There's rooms in the house where your rec room in the basement maybe. Like I've got little kids, like they can go down there and you can take a ball and whatever happens, happens. And there's rooms in the house that we probably don't take our shoes off. I think that's kind of like golf. Augusta National is a place that has a certain way about it. And that's not to say that they make you behave a certain way. It's just everybody just seems to be on their best behavior.
Your shoes are off in Augusta.
No, I'd say I keep my shoes on. I make sure I keep them. I make sure I don't like act like I'm very comfortable there, but there's a respect that you have for the venue and the surroundings that's just different. Like we're both Terps. You go to the Xfinity Center for a Big Ten game, you're going to act like a wild person. Well, I think we'll see some of that out here this week. I think Charlotte is going to be absolutely ready to go, nuts off the deep end, and I think this place will feel like what it is, a big time venue that has a lot of juice. Every event's different. The Open Championship is altogether different even than the U.S. Open or the Masters. It's the oldest championship in the game, and they have a reverence for the sport there. They don't just cheer when the ball is airborne, and they'll cheer for a shot that's not nearly as close to the hole because they know it was great. Here, people are probably just going to cheer if the ball's airborne because they're fired up to see the best in the world. So there's similarities certainly, but each venue, each major is different. I expect Quail Hollow to be more raucous than most.
Do you have any predictions for the upcoming week in terms of maybe a sleeper pick that people might not be thinking that you might think be doing pretty well this week?
I always say Sepp Straka, and then Sepp won last week, so it's hard to say Sepp's a sleeper. I mean, everybody's wide awake on Sepp, but he's a hell of a player. My guy, Keith Mitchell, who I know well, it keeps playing great in first rounds of events. He's played well here. Maybe my guy who they call Kashmir, maybe he'd be a guy that could be a somewhat off the radar pick, although he was top 10 last week. But look, you don't have to squint real hard this week. I think it's bombers. I think it's so wet. Rory, who's won here 4 times, he's going to murder the ball off the tee. I picked DeChambeau for our ESPN. They ask us, who do you like? Sure. It's 156 guys. I'm supposed to be able to pick one. I picked Rory at Augusta, which wasn't exactly a long shot pick, but I picked Bryson because I think his length is something that is going to be such a massive advantage here this week. But there's a reason Rory's played so well here, because it's a big ballpark, as they say, and he's got the length to make it a smaller one. He'll be in the mix. Scotty Scheffler will be in the mix. I don't think you're going to see some total wild card. You'll see names that maybe you didn't expect Thursday and Friday. Come Sunday, you're gonna know the names that are on the first page of the leaderboard. I'm sure of it.
So Sunday, we're standing just off of the 18 green right now. This is going to be, of course, a place where someone will be having a pretty emotional moment, getting that win. As a broadcaster, how do you kind of encapsulate the emotions that a golfer might be feeling as they're getting a win here at a PGA Championship or any major?
If it's somebody that's never won, it's your life's changed. Every bit of your work has been realized. Maybe the thing you didn't know you could do, you did. And when that happens, it's really, really fun to see, because it really does change probably who the guy sees in the mirror that Monday morning, right? Like, if you've never done it, you wonder, can I? And I think what people learn is they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to play perfect golf from Thursday morning to Sunday night to win. And when that player finds that out, it's like this epiphany. Wow, I didn't have to be perfect, and I won a major. And I think it's really affirming that all the work was worthwhile. And if it's Rory, then now, hey, we got a Grand Slam to talk about. If it's Scotty, all right, he's halfway to the Slam. I think it depends on who the person is, like the feeling. Because the first timer, I always love to see it, just because I wonder just how much joy and relief there is in that. But whoever it is will be incredibly fulfilled and satisfied that the hard work ended up with that gigantic trophy.
Johnny, the course looks immaculate as always. I always wonder how you balance making this a place that players clearly want to come play, and obviously they want to play in the PGA Championship, but also make it challenging. It's a championship event.
I think you have to look at the experience that we've had with all the events over the years, and the ability to understand what people are looking for a competition like a PGA Championship, which is one of the majors. They really expect our golf course to be in good shape, and Keith has done a great job. Keith Wood has done a great job, our superintendent, to make this course in such tip-top condition. And a little rain won't hurt it. We'll be fine.
Yeah, wet start to the week, but
Yep.
it's looking better as the week goes on. A little heat coming in, too. How do you anticipate it'll play this weekend?
I think it'll dry up, and hopefully it'll dry up and get a little firmer, and the ball will roll more, because our fairways play better when they're firm.
You talked this February about your father and the conversations he had with the founders, and kind of listening
Yep.
in on those as a young man. What do you think they would think of this course today, hosting this event?
Well, I think the first thing they'd all say is, "Good God, it's long," and it is long. But it's the way the kids are playing now, and I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think about all the good players that I saw when I came along, and that'd be Curtis and Jay and Arnold and those people, and honestly, they were great players and great athletes. Now they're players who come along that are great talents and develop themselves into great athletes and hit the ball so far, and they can do things with a golf ball that hadn't been done for a long time.
Yeah, speaking to that, you also told us a few months ago that Quail Hollow is more than a golf club. It is part of the fabric of where golf is going. How does it fit into that context this week and beyond?
Well, I think it's a place for us now, and we've over the years, we've had more professional golf events here than we've not had events. So we're over a majority of the time we've been open, we've been having professional golf events, and we've earned a spot in the national arena, and we really like that.
Yeah, and it's more than just the club that puts this on. It's the whole city. It's the whole community, and a city that you've had so much belief in.
That's correct.
What does it take from everybody to pull together?
Well, everybody in the community and in the state and in the area has worked hard to make this a special event.
And I know you're always looking out on the horizon.
Yeah.
And to what's next.
Well, I think we got the truest for the
Yeah.
next 6 years, and then we'll look at something else.
Yeah, that's pretty good too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We're excited about
All right.
that.
Johnny Harris, Quail Hollow Club.
All right, cut off there. Nick Carboni talking to Johnny Harris from the Quail Hollow. He's president there at the Country Club, so active there with all of the golf action coming through town. Want to let you know that Rory McIlroy, if you're following him, Scotty Van Pelt mentioned his name as well. He did tee off about 8:22 this morning. I'm not quite sure where he is on the leaderboard, but pretty sure that he should be wrapping up his round here shortly. We'll get you caught up with all of the PGA action. Right now, want to take you live to Dedham, Massachusetts. That's where the Karen Reed retrial is entering day 16. The defense now doing their cross-examination of forensic pathologist Dr. Scordy Bello. They just questioned her on how she came to the conclusion that Johnny O'Keefe, who was the victim here, who died, that he suffered from hypothermia. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Assuming a fall backwards onto frozen ground and there being on a lawn with grass, would you expect to see any grass at all in the injury site?
It's possible to have grass.
Is it possible to have well, are you familiar with the height and weight of the decedent generally? And if you need to look at your notes, please do so.
Yes. Mr. O'Keefe was approximately 6'1" and 216 pounds.
So, assuming a fall backwards and an impact to head on a ground with grass, a person who's 6'1", there is going to be significant acceleration forces that occur as they're going backwards. Is that correct?
That's fair to say, yes.
And therefore, the more acceleration forces, usually there's a correlation with the force of the impact?
Correct.
And in terms of force of impact and assuming grass on the ground, would you believe it's more probable than not that one would then see some grass on the head?
Sustained is definitely.
Given what you testified regarding the height of Mr. O'Keefe, and assuming what I just gave to you as a fall backwards and acceleration and forces, would you expect to see anything else on the back of his head?
You have to be more specific than that.
Right. I thank you. So, would you expect to see? Is it possible, if that was the manner of the fall, that there should be grass on the head? Is that possible?
Sustained.
Hey everyone, Jane Monreal here with you in the Live Impact studio. We break away from the Karen Reed retrial because it appears that we have some live pictures right now of President Trump's visit to the United Arab Emirates, talking to the president there. Let's listen in here as they are having conversation right now. His third day visiting the Mideast. This is the third stop. And here he is in Live Impact News on WCNC+. Let's listen in.
A testament to this is the UAE's plan to invest in the U.S. in these sectors through the UAE's investment bodies at a total value of $1.4 trillion over the next 10 years. Additionally, major partnerships and projects are underway between private sector entities in both nations. Beyond these areas, our countries maintain a strategic partnership in the field of space exploration. And the astronaut program and the asteroid belt mission. In this context, I would like to share something that may not be widely known. The American spacecraft Apollo 17 that flew in 1973 had carried the UAE flag on its journey to the moon. That same flag was later sent by NASA to our nation's founding father, the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, in 1973, along with a fragment of lunar rock. Sheikh Zayed met with Apollo astronauts on several occasions, and he had a deep and enduring mission for the UAE to reach space. Mr. President, in March of this year, you stated that the UAE and the United States have long been partners in efforts to bring peace and security to the Middle East and the world. Today, I reaffirm to you that the UAE remains committed to working with the United States to advance peace and stability in our region and globally. Once again, Mr. President, I warmly welcome you, and I'm confident that this visit will have a profound and positive impact on the future of our bilateral relations. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Your Highness. What a lot of people don't know, I think my staff is very surprised by it. You and I have been friends for a long time. We've been good friends. And what they don't know about you is that you are considered a truly great warrior. And you've been through the wars. You're a great warrior, a very strong man, a brilliant man, a man of vision, like few others, and highly respected. When they know you, there's tremendous respect, and you're so respected in the Middle East. It's really amazing. You know, we've done the tour with two of your very good friends, you know that, and we were talking about you, and I won't tell you everything, but I can say it was all good. It was all good. Total admiration and respect for what you've done and who you are. And they said, when he gives you a handshake, when he makes a deal, that's the deal. And your wonderful brother came to Washington few weeks ago, and he told us about your generous statement as to the 1.4 trillion. And all I could say is thank you very much. We will work very hard to deserve it. I have absolutely no doubt that the relationship will only get bigger and better. Your relationship and mine can't get better, so I can't say it's going to get better because it's at the highest level it can be. But our countries will work together. We've become a very hot country. We were not such a hot country 6 months ago. And now I think we're the hottest country, if you want to know the truth. We had one little indication a year ago. We were having a hard time getting people to join the military, enlistment they call it in our country. We were getting very bad vibes, very unhappy. It was an unhappy country. A lot of foolish things were happening, stupid things were happening. And we just got the numbers. We had the highest enlistment numbers just about that we've ever had. We think it's probably the highest, but they say have to be extremely accurate when it comes to the news because they check every word I say. If there's a little bit of an inaccuracy, but I will tell you, we had just about the best numbers for enlistment we've ever had. Every one of our services. I'm very proud of Space Force because I created Space Force. That was my baby. Hadn't been done in 78 years, a new force, and it's doing phenomenally well. We were not winning the space war, and now we're leading it by tremendous margins over Russia and China primarily. And so we're very proud of it, but I'm very proud of, maybe even more so, the enlistment numbers. So we went from having a hard time getting people to join our armed forces and our police, by the way, to having the best numbers that we've ever had, wanting to join. They're proud of our country again. That's a big thing, and to happen so fast, over about a 6 or 7 month period, that's a big honor. And likewise, the police, very hard to get police, and now the ranks are bursting and with pride. So that's something that we're very happy about. We've had investments in our country over the last 3 months, but really 2 months because it took me a couple of weeks to get started. I had to get a little acclimated again because we had a very successful first term, as you know. We had one of the most successful economies in the history of our country. First term was amazing. We did a lot of things. We rebuilt our military. We did a lot of great things. And I think this is even going to be better. But we have now, I think, substantially over $10 trillion of investment. And now when they add the 1.4 trillion, we easily break that number. So that's investment or investment that we think will soon happen. And it doesn't include people that are building, because not everybody comes and tells us that they're building, and it's a big country, but we're having numbers that we've never done before, and that means AI plants. That means, as an example, a really good example is Apple. Apple is now spending much more than $500 billion on plants. They didn't do that before. As you know, they built their plants in another location. We have the biggest computer company, $500 billion. We have Mr. Wei of Taiwan is spending $200 billion. Jensen who's great. Jensen Huang is spending $500 billion. We have numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That all means jobs, because to me the most important jobs. I want jobs. And we have costs are way down. Groceries, we have a term, grocery. It's an old term, but it means basically what you're buying, food. It's a pretty accurate term, but it's an old-fashioned sound. But groceries are down, costs are down, eggs are down. They were, first week they were hitting me with eggs were up 200%, and now they're down to a number that is amazing. We're down 97, 98% from where they were. And everybody, they said, you won't have eggs for Easter. Well, we had everybody had eggs for Easter at a very reasonable price. At the White House, we had our little Easter egg roll, and we had hundreds of thousands of eggs purchased. They said, you have to go out and buy plastic eggs. That didn't work out. So we've done a real job, and our energy costs are way down. The energy is way down, gasoline is down, and we have almost no inflation. So we've got the economy back. We've got a border now that's very powerful, 99.9%, and nobody would have believed that was possible. It was a real mess. And we had, frankly, an incompetent previous administration. I know you weren't thrilled with them. They abandoned people, and it wasn't that they abandoned. They didn't bother to call people back. They treated people with great disrespect, but part of it was a level of stupidity that we've never seen before. And I'm glad we arrived, and I know you people also woo you. You're an amazing country. You're a rich country. You can have your choice, but I know you'll never leave my side. I know that. And you know the special relationship that we have and our country has. So our country's back with you, and our country's back in a lot of ways. We have a country with tremendous spirit right now, tremendous. They haven't seen anything like it. I would say this, we're far ahead of schedule. If you would have told me these numbers in a year and a half from now, I would have been very happy with them. But think that substantially more than $10 trillion, you'll have numbers of other presidents where they won't do $1 trillion in a long time, $1 trillion. We did it in 2 months because, again, you figure 3, but let me have 1 month of fixing up the Oval Office, in other words, getting things ready. And I look forward to having you in the White House. We'll celebrate together. But we are going to be your friend, and we're going to be your partner, and we really appreciate your confidence and an investment. That's your biggest investment that you've ever made, and we really appreciate it, and we're going to treat you very, as you should be, magnificently. And you're a magnificent man, and it's an honor to be with you.
My honor, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. شكرا شباب. دخل وسام.
نستأذن سموكم بالبدء. Your Highness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, in recognition of President Donald Trump's exceptional efforts to strengthen the long-standing ties of friendship and strategic partnership between the United Arab Emirates and United States of America, I am honored to announce that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan bestows the Order of Zayed upon President Trump.
Will you give me the honor?
Thank you.
You are watching live right now President Trump meeting with the president of the United Arab Emirates, President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and that picture is down. So we will take it back out here in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. That's how it happens, folks. The feeds come through the WCNC Charlotte newsroom, and we bring it to you raw and unfiltered. So as we brought that to you live, we are going to take a little switcheroo and bring it back here to Washington, D.C. I believe there are some folks going out to the D.C. protesting in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. There have been talks of the court hearing arguments over the president's challenge to birthright citizenship. So let's listen in here live now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
I'm doing, in spite of our abilities, our skills, our legal proceedings and everything, we still hand everything to you. We know, Father, that during very difficult moments like this, only your will prevail. People may think that they have all the powers. They may even crown themselves. But Lord, at the end of it all, we bring it over to you. This is our humble prayer through your Son, Jesus Christ, with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Merci, Frère Amos. Merci beaucoup. Y'all, I lied. We have some special guests. We have some special guests, and we have got to hear from them. Remember, we mentioned that there are over 20 states that are in this fight with us. And today, some attorney generals from those states were present in that courtroom arguing on our side as well. So, please, let's hear a round of applause. Round of applause. And so, with me today, and standing behind me, New Jersey Attorney General Plotkin, Washington State Attorney General Brown, Connecticut, our Connecticut Attorney General Tong. Okay, without further ado, please, I would like to bring you up so you can share some words about what happened today, what we can expect. Please, Attorney Generals, come on up. Round of applause.
I'll be very brief. First of all, I want to thank CASA for being in this fight with us and for representing so many people whose rights are being trampled on right now. And what you heard in that courtroom is clear. The 14th Amendment, 157 years ago, put in place to end the debate about whether babies born on U.S. soil were in fact citizens. 127 years ago, the Supreme Court reaffirmed that. And for over a century, we have all agreed babies born here are citizens. And the United States government wants to bring us back to a day where we decide citizenship based on which state you live in, not based on what the Constitution says. I'm proud to be part of this coalition. I'm proud to stand with CASA, and I'm proud to stand with millions of people, including people in my own family, who are citizens because of the place of their birth, which is the United States of America. I'm very proud to be here. It's my honor to turn it over to General Nick Brown of the great state of Washington.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to echo those thanks and appreciation for you being here today and joining in this fight. Our ability as lawyers and advocates for the people in our home states, we're only as strong as our ability to tell the stories of the people that are impacted by this lawless president. We are here today because of the bravery of individuals and organizations standing with us, so we can echo the harm that is being done not only to our states, but the people that live in our states. And every day since the start of this administration, we're seeing attempts to undermine our Constitution, attack the rule of law. But I think what we saw in court today was the unraveling of some of those arguments. The skepticism and the pushback that we have seen, not only from democratically appointed justices, but Republican appointed justices as well. We feel very confident that the court will adhere to the precedent that has been the law of this land for so long. Because we need to make sure that if you were born in this country, you have the rights of being an American. You have the rights and the liberties of being an American. And no one president can undermine that with an executive order. But I'm really confident moving forward based on what we've seen today and the coalition and the teamwork that we have from all the attorney generals engaged in this litigation, that we will win. And we will win on your behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CASA. Are we here for this fight? Hello, sisters, brothers, friends, neighbors, family. How many of us share same or similar stories? How many of us come from immigrants and refugees, right? How many of us are the first American citizens in our immediate family? And so Reverend Amos talked about an attack on America's children. That's what this is. It's a war on America's children. It's a war on the American people. It's an attack on all of us who share this beautiful story, right? Who came here from so many different places, and found a home here. You know, so many of us, my parents came here with nothing. Like Matt's wife actually, her family too. My parents opened a Chinese restaurant, and they were both immigrants when I was born. And so when I was born, I was the first American citizen in my family by right of my birth on American soil. And it's true about so many millions of people. So we're fighting for them, we're fighting for America, we're fighting for America's families. And all of us, each and every one of us, has to get into this fight every single day. So let's just make sure that this is not the end. The Supreme Court is not the end. This is just the beginning of this battle. Are you all in this battle with us? And we are in it with you. And it's my honor to introduce Andrea Campbell, the Attorney General of Massachusetts.
It's my honor to be here with my colleagues because it is only Democratic AGs that are fighting not only for the rule of law, but on this issue. And I'm grateful to CASA and all of you for being out here in this heat, advocating, standing up, doing your part, because we recognize we cannot do it without you. And while we've heard this birthright citizenship case spoken about in terms of unborn babies and the harm it would cause them, and the harm it will cause our immigrant communities and those that choose to come here for a better life or for a different reason to contribute to this country, I also think there's another reason why this is powerful and everyone should care. I'm the first black woman to serve as Attorney General of Massachusetts. And if you know the history of the 14th Amendment, if it were not decided over 150 years ago that those who were formerly enslaved in this country could be citizens, I wouldn't have been able to run for office, to vote, or to get all of the privileges and benefits afforded me as a U.S. citizen. If they can dismantle this amendment, this Constitution, with a Sharpie and a stroke of a pen, and give a president significant authority where it moves towards being a king versus a Democratic president, they can come for the First Amendment. They can come for the Second Amendment. They can come for all the other rights and privileges that we maybe at times take for granted. So everyone should pay attention to this. And what's worse and sad is as we stand in this court with very thoughtful justices today, and I'm hopeful, like my colleagues, that they will get this right based on the line of questioning they had today, but that we had to spend hours in court on this issue that was decided over 150 years ago, as folks deal with affordability issues, the rise in prices, the things they need us to pay attention to. So I'm proud that AGs are not only leading with joy and fighting the fight, proud that we're going to continue to stand up for the rule of law while also not taking our eyes off the other issues that our constituents are dealing with every single day, some of whom are living in fear. We have your back. We are grateful to this organization, and we say to everyone, bring it on, because we are ready, because we know what's at stake. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Attorney Generals Platkin, Campbell, Brown, Tong, we thank you for your leadership. We thank you for your partnership. We thank you for your fight. We will continue in this fight until the end. And I believe that we will win. 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 Muchísimas gracias a todos por estar aquí hoy. Nosotros vamos a estar en esta lucha hoy, siempre, 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 hasta el fin. Gracias por estar aquí. And with that, I say have a wonderful day. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being in this fight.
All right, that protest wrapping up in D.C. For birthright citizenship as the Supreme Court wraps up hearing oral arguments in that trial. Want to take a look now at our local weather. It seems like it's a beautiful day for the first day of the PGA Championship. Majestic Storm has the latest on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Turning now to your forecast, and you know what? It is a gorgeous day out there. Sunshine all across the area.
Majestic storm joins us now. Thankfully, the majority of the rain is in our rearview mirror for this week.
Exactly. Today is going to be a really nice day. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures stay warm into the 80s, so you'll notice that increase in warmth and humidity. And then over the next couple of days, as we're heading into our weekend, both Saturday and Friday, we'll be watching for a few isolated storms and showers. Nothing like the widespread and heavy rain that we already had earlier this week, but something that we'll definitely be watching at over the weekend. And then on Sunday, we're back on track to just nice warm conditions. You can see the difference a day makes. Yesterday, we hit 80 degrees. Today, we're forecasting 86 degrees. So we are definitely warming things up. Here's a look at our afternoon forecast. Generally, we will have plenty of sunshine, a few building clouds as we head into the afternoon, and we could see some storms actually develop over towards the mountains, but really the highest risk for that is well out of our viewing area. We're going to detail that out, but I want to start talking about the next few days because it's Thursday, but I know many of you already have the weekend in your mind. So we're looking at those very warm temperatures. Our average high is 80 degrees for our area, so we'll be above that for multiple days in a row. And as far as that severe weather risk goes today, really it's off to the north and to the west of us for the greatest risk. But as we head into our Friday, we'll have small opportunities for a few spotty showers, perhaps an isolated thunderstorm, but where we're really watching that area in red, that's where we will likely see some very strong storms develop, and perhaps out towards the mountain counties. Again, this is on Friday. Then once we fast forward again on Saturday, Storm Prediction Center does have our area under that low-end threat for a few storms. And really, as we're timing this out, it seems like it's going to be late on Friday and then in the early morning hours on Saturday. Futurecast looks like this. Here's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Generally, I just think it's going to be a really nice day to get outside and enjoy it. Even tonight, it could be a nice night to go find a patio, go have some dinner outside. And then as we head into the overnight hours and into Friday, here's 7 a.m. We're waking up, getting the kids off to school. We'll start out the day with a few more clouds, still dry. It's going to be those afternoon spotty showers and thunderstorms that we'll be watching for because they could be tricky. They could bring heavy downpours, brief gusty winds, and we're even seeing that through that 4 o'clock time frame. Here's 6 o'clock even, and then that system will move off to the east of us. This is the line that's a little bit more concerning, but notice as it tracks our direction, here's 6 a.m. on Saturday. It starts to become more disorganized, which is really what you like to see when we see a setup like that. But it's not out of the question that Saturday morning we see some scattered rain showers, but then look at this. By Saturday afternoon, back on track to gorgeous weather. It is going to get hot this weekend, not only hot, but also humid. Temperatures into the upper 80s, perhaps a low 90-degree temperature here and there. And once you add in that humidity, that's when it really gets hot. We're going to see those heat index values really rise into the upper 80s and even above 90 degrees. Low temperatures will even struggle to drop, only falling really into the 60s and 70s. And it's not until next week that we'll have our next best opportunity for more widespread rain. At this point, it seems like it'll move in Tuesday and into Wednesday. So from here on out, we'll have a little bit more sunshine than cloud coverage and definitely steering away from a lot of strong storms. So if you're heading out to the PGA, today is going to be fantastic. Grab the sunblock and the sunglasses. A little bit more cloud coverage tomorrow, but Lisa and Ben, this weekend overall doesn't look too bad at all.
Sounds good as you make your way through the weekend and out to Quail Hollow. Hopefully you get to enjoy some of this great weather. Want to switch gears right now and take you out to Idaho. This is what is likely to be the last final pre-trial hearing, rather, for the suspect for 4 homicides. He is making an appearance right now in the Boise, Idaho courtroom, and it looks like some of the items being taken up at this hearing include some of the evidence for the state's effort to admit a variety of records, like what the police obtained, and dozens of search warrants during this multi-state investigation. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
If they watch or attend any part of Phase 1.
Well, the problem with that is that Phase 1 is also part of the state's Phase 2 evidence, as is the defense's, right?
Your Honor, I think that would support the need for them to be able to know it if the state's going to rely on things that were...
Are you talking about experts?
experts and possibly lay people too.
Oh, explain to me why lay people should be excluded from it.
I don't think they should be excluded.
So you think they should not be permitted to watch the trial?
I think I've got some double negatives going on. I think that if we get to a phase 2, I don't think that those witnesses have to be excluded from paying attention to phase 1. I think the protection for phase 1 is separate than phase 2 because of the rules of evidence that apply to any phase 2, the lack of them that apply to phase 2, and because the state's going to rely on what was in phase 1. So yes, experts, and some potential lay witnesses as well.
Mr. Thompson or whoever wants to address this?
Our initial inclination is to leave that to the court's discretion. I think the whole purpose is to avoid prospective witnesses altering their testimony in some fashion based on what they've seen going on in court. That's the danger. I don't know why phase 2 witnesses should be treated any differently than phase 1 witnesses.
Well, what I'm going to do is, I'll give you a chance to each submit something within 7 days in writing on that, and I'll look at it so that you can give me any authority that you might come across related to that issue. Give me a chance to think about it further, and for the two of you to perhaps talk to see if you can understand specifically who you might be thinking of to see if the state has a problem with that. All right. Counsel who calls a witness, unless it's clearly an adverse witness, in which case counsel needs to notify opposing counsel that they have not admonished that witness. But otherwise, counsel is responsible for ensuring witnesses are aware of orders in limine, otherwise clearly off a testimony that is off limits. Make sure they understand, the Rule 615 requirements and the fact that they're going to have to sign an affidavit subject to the penalties of perjury that they have not watched this stuff. So it's your responsibility to make sure that they're aware, because when they don't comply, I'm going to be asking, why did you make them aware? While we were talking about the jury, I failed to give you the juror affirmation that will have to be signed by the jurors each day. Let me give you a copy of that along the same lines. So that is an affidavit each juror will fill out daily, indicating that they have not violated the court's instruction or otherwise been exposed to testimony or information about the case outside of the trial itself. If I exclude evidence and you need to make an offer of proof, the opportunity to do that generally is when the jury, when we're not working with the jury, such as the morning session or the afternoon session, so that you can make that record as best as possible. So that can be done typically by simply making a oral reference to what the witness would have testified or what the evidence would have shown had it been admitted. Okay, let me. I think the rules are pretty clear, but some judges may have more leeway than others about objections. Let me explain to you what my expectations are regarding objections. So objections to questions or exhibits should be stated simply and without argument. It should not be a speaking objection. So for example, an objection, a proper objection might be, for example, objection hearsay. Objection foundation requires a little more. As you're probably aware, there's case law that is an insufficient objection. You have to identify what is missing from the foundation as part of your objection. If you think that doing so would put information in front of the jury that you're not certain I'm going to allow, please ask to approach. I tend to be a rather quick on rulings, on objections. I've been known to, testimony, objection, overruled, sustained immediately, without even giving you much of a chance to express your concern greater, because I can usually anticipate what the potential issue is and whether or not it's an issue. That said, if you think your ox has been gored and you need to address the issue more, either to have a record or in order to perhaps convince me that I'm maybe looking at it differently than what you anticipated or than I should, please just ask to approach, and then we can have a discussion here at the bench about that. If you need to make a further record for any reason on an objection or in response to an objection, simply ask to approach and we will have that discussion. I'm sure by the end of the trial we'll have to replace the carpet from the trail leading from counsel to the bench, but that's fine. As I've shown you before, the court reporter will have a device like this that will allow her to hear through her earphones what we're saying. There will be white noise that's played in the courtroom so the jury and others cannot hear what we're talking about. There will be a physical barrier that blocks most of the view of the jury from what we're talking about at the bench that's rolled out so that they can't see. And we can have fairly fulsome whispered discussions here at the bench about that, whatever the issue may be. I have found in, doing this for far longer than I care to remember that when I send the jury away to hear argument on an objection, what might take 3 minutes to have the argument on takes 12 to 15 minutes to get the jury back again. And then we lose a lot of time throughout the day that way. And so my preference is, as much as possible, to have those discussions here at the bench. Now, if it's a very significant issue that requires much more leg room, so to speak, to talk about it, then I will chase them out of the room, but I prefer not to handle the more routine stuff. One of the things about, I've had counsel before who confuse the idea of the need to make a record with the need to get my ruling and then offer a rebuttal to it. That is not making a record, that is making a rebuttal. And at least until it goes over to State Street, I get the last word and not you. And so I don't generally afford that opportunity. So if after I rule and you tell me you need to make a record, it truly needs to be a record on something that for some reason you were unable to make when you had the opportunity to do so, and not simply to see what my ruling is and then try to pick it apart. I will reiterate what I started with, is I don't like surprises. If you anticipate an objection or you anticipate objecting to testimony you certainly know is coming, let's talk it over before the witness hits the stand, before the jury's in the box, so that I have as much time as possible to be prepared so I can give you as best a ruling as I can, and so that you can make as best an argument as you can. If you anticipate the potential impeachment of a witness by prior testimony, whether that's grand jury testimony, whether that is transcribed witness interviews, whatever it might be, please get that to me before the witness hits the stand, and preferably towards the start of the trial, so that I have that available so I can have read it before the witness testifies, so that when you then ask to either impeach or to refresh recollection or whatever it might be, I will have read that testimony. Don't be mistaken in your belief that I have all that testimony. If it, for example, happened with Judge, I don't necessarily have all those transcripts, so get them to me. Or if I do, they're in one of 100 boxes somewhere back there.
Your Honor, if they've been supplied with exhibits and the purpose was just for that, will that be enough for the court, or should I have an extra transcript at the start of the day if I think I need it on paper for it?
So let me know as far as advance and possible, and I will have staff look for that. But otherwise, it's probably safest just to provide me an actual copy of it.
Thank you.
While I'm thinking of it, because I'm in my mind envisioning the materials from grand jury that we have here, the state did file a motion to get back its exhibits for use at trial. I assume there's no objection to that?
Correct. No objections.
All right. Mr. Thompson, if you may make arrangements with staff here to get those while you're here, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I assume you have replacements you have or will get to me for those.
And actually, we had a procedural question we were going to ask the clerk. I'll ask Your Honor.
Clerk probably knows better than I do, but I'll go ahead and try.
We can do one of two things. We can either get together a set of photographs or copies of the exhibits and exchange those for the exhibits, or take the exhibits, document them, and then give the clerk what we've documented. We're happy to do it either way.
Well, my only fear is that you take the exhibit and then I don't know what the record is of what it actually looked like. Not to suggest that you would be involved in any chicanery and switching something out, but just trying as best I can to preserve that record.
Understood. So we probably will not pick them
Okay.
up on this trip, but we will make arrangements to have that done certainly well before trial.
Very well.
Thank you, sir.
Speaking of chicanery, I'm not fond, and you folks know that by now, of making accusations against opposing counsel that are not well-founded and supported by specific actual evidence. I know that you can get along, but I also know that over the course of a trial, particularly a long one, tension rises. And so I remind you of that, to be professional. Don't talk to each other directly when we're in court, right? When the session's going, everything goes through the court as you know, the protocol with courts generally is. Refer to each other by professionally, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Thompson, not by first name, while we're on the record. Again, avoid making accusations that you don't have the tickets for, or the receipts for, I should say. And under no circumstances should you make such accusations in front of the jury. It's a long trial, so as much as I want you to be prepared, flexibility about how witnesses are presented. You may have a local witness and a witness who's flown in that needs to get out again at the end of the day. And so it may be that we need to stop one witness's testimony to get the other witness in and then pick the other one up. As long as there's no clear prejudice from that, I'm generally flexible in allowing that so that we can accommodate that. And I ask you to both be accommodating to each other in that regard. All right, any questions about witnesses' testimony?
Just one, it's kind of a takeoff of what the court just mentioned. We have at least one, maybe a couple law enforcement witnesses in particular who have testimony relevant to different stages of the case. And it's our intent, with the court's permission, to call them at different times instead of trying to figure out how to call them once and have them talk about what's going on at this stage of the case and then what may be happening next week with the case. Is that acceptable to the court?
Well, let's start with whether it's acceptable with Ms. Taylor.
Your Honor, I don't know that I have a strong objection or really any business in telling the state how to put on their case. That feels really cumbersome to me. I was hoping for leeway the other way when we would call a witness ourselves, but they're a state's witness. I'd hope to have a little leeway to do all of my examinations so they didn't have to come back. I would otherwise defer to the court.
Certainly, if somebody's on your witness list, if you want to go beyond the scope of direct as part of effectively your case in chief in advance, I don't have a problem with that. And so if it's going to save bringing another witness back, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem if it doesn't get too cumbersome.
Yes, sir.
If we're having a law enforcement talk about a broad area of one phase of the investigation at a time, that's probably okay. But, having them come up and narrate between every other witness is probably too much. Then the question becomes how do we handle cross-examination? And basically I will defer to the defense on that or the other side on that to the extent that we allow, which is, do you want to cross-examine about the information they just presented now? Or do you want to wait until their last presentation and cross-examine about everything? And so that'll be up to you.
Your Honor, with that said, then I guess I'd request that the state let us know when they call a law enforcement that's for a limited purpose right now, but is coming back for another purpose.
Yeah, they need to let me know that as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you don't let them know that, and well, either way, it's your responsibility to ensure that they're back at some point available to the defense so that they can cross-examine, even if you decide, I don't need them anymore. You better not send them on an airplane somewhere where they're unattainable.
Yes, sir.
Because the remedy may be to strike all of their testimony as a starting point.
We would anticipate asking court and counsel if this witness may be excused if we're finished with them, and then I would give Ms. Taylor or other counsel an opportunity to let us know whether they still need that person.
Okay. Likewise, when you look at each other's witness lists, talk with each other and then write it and get it in writing so we have it as to whether or not, for example, Ms. Taylor will need subpoenas to witnesses you have on your list that they want to also call, or if the other way around, you need subpoenas for their witnesses, or whether they will essentially agree to make them available. Anything else with respect to witnesses before I move to exhibits?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So I did require a meet and confer for you to go over exhibits, and I got those, and I appreciate the start that you have on those. There are a number of exhibits where appears to be, I can't tell. So for example, there's an objection to, for example, relevance or hearsay. Part of what I wanted to know, though, to start is, regardless of whether it's ultimately admissible for those reasons, is there an objection to authenticity? In other words, I want to make the trial go as quickly as possible, avoid the need to put on a bunch of witnesses simply to say, this is what this is, and they don't really have any substantive discussion about it. They're just authenticating a document that, if we were to be honest, there's no dispute that it is what it is. And so I may have you go back and look at that and add another column to the list, which is objections to authenticity. Some of the stuff, key actual evidence items, whether that's DNA or whatever it might be, obviously the defense is entitled to put the state to its burden with respect to chain of custody and all that, so I don't expect that. But on some of the other stuff, certainly to the extent that we can agree that if there's no good faith basis to contest the authenticity, then let's try to do that for everyone's sake. In that vein, I know the state had to withdraw its request to have certain documents self-authenticated to go back and do more work. Where are we at on that?
Ms. Jennings can speak to that, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I believe that we've submitted all of the certificates of authentication for all the exhibits we plan to introduce that way.
Okay. And you've submitted those to the defense to review? And Ms. Taylor, are you going to respond to those?
Your Honor, we did. We met with the state last week, I believe, or the week before, and we discussed some of those records. There were some issues with them. Ms. Jennings provided me with a thumb drive, and I don't know if those have corrections on them, but I'll continue to let the state know what we think, if we continue with an objection or if we're satisfied that the rule's been met.
Okay. If you could get with each other and then provide me I didn't study the exhibits that I got a day or two ago, or the spreadsheet that closely, but make sure I'm aware specifically of which exhibits there is no objection to the self-authenticating or otherwise not an objection to authenticity. Doesn't sound like we're going to need a hearing on that, at least for the time being, though.
Not that I'm aware of now, but certainly we'll keep our eye on it. I can alert the court, and if we can squeeze it into June 18th, that's possible. Maybe we
Sure.
can start that at noon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I would certainly caution, at least because the state goes first for now, I'll say the state, that belts and suspenders are good ideas when it comes to trial. So I would have my people I need to authenticate things under subpoena just in case. Especially if they're out-of-state witnesses, because that's not something you can do overnight. So the methods of displaying evidence to the jury, generally there's three ways to do that. One is by putting it on the Elmo and projecting the physical document, whether it's a writing or something else. The other is if it's a writing or something else, using litigation software of some kind to project it through the computer. And the third is passing it through the jury. That last one is the one I want to avoid as much as possible because that just takes too much time. So try to use the other two approaches as much as possible. Now, there are going to be some physical objects that it may be important for the jury to see, and I get that. But in general, you know, photographs, things that are in writing.
All right, it looks like that picture is frozen, so we are going to go over to Suni Williams, who made the commencement speech this morning at Merrimack College, now at the Governor's House in Massachusetts. Let's listen in here live on WCNC+.
It gives you oxygen, it gets rid of carbon dioxide. It has like 17 layers of material to keep you safe from micrometeorite hits if something hits you. The bearings are pretty stiff, and so it's a little bit hard to move around in that. So it's a lot different than being in a t-shirt environment. The cool thing though is, you know, you got your view. You got it. You can turn your head, you can go, and you can look at anything. Where on the space station you have a fixed window that's as much as you can see out of. And so we see things, we're able to go to different places on the space station outside and look at the space station where only cameras could look, or look at the universe where there's no camera that could look at it, because most of our cameras are more facing down. We have a couple that are up, but most of them are facing down as the space station flies like an airplane. So it's a lot different, and it's exhausting. We're usually in the suit for 8 or 9 hours, because the spacewalks are about 6 hours, and the process of getting in the suit and getting out of the suit takes a little time. It's like diving, so you have to get all the nitrogen. We're breathing 100% oxygen, so you have to get all the nitrogen out of your systems, and so that's what takes another hour, an additional hour to breathe out all of your nitrogen. So that's what takes a long time. There's no bathroom in the space suit, so we accommodate that with a diaper, and we have good diapers. I'm not afraid of getting old, because I think I peed about 5 times in one diaper, and that was okay. So life goes on, and you just have to know how to accommodate it. So I think that the thing about spacewalks is that I think there's every emotion a human can have in that time frame, in like 6 hours. Like at the end of it, it's like an après-ski. Like after you skied all day long, you're like exhausted because you're psyched that you're going. This is what you train for. Then something is really hard, and you're working, every muscle on your body to do it. And then something else is really easy, so you're super, elated like that. And then you're hot, when the sun is shining right on you. You're cold when you're on the other side of the earth, and it's, and it's all shadow. You're just everything that a human can go through. I think you go through in that 6 hours, and you're just exhausted by the end of it. But it's pretty cool. But those, by the way, I wanted to say when you were talking about it before, these records they're made for breaking. Come on.
That's awesome.
You guys need to go to the moon, and as soon as we put people on the moon, all my records are out the window, and we're going to make that happen. So you guys got ready. You'll just forget me and put the next person in the frame.
It's awesome.
These fun things are on your way out. This is not a school space, I don't think. It's about Massachusetts, so make sure you grab one of these when you're wandering around forever.
Awesome.
Were you going to say something?
I just wanted to ask maybe a final question. So obviously you've been up a few times now, but for someone who goes up for the first time, what advice do you give them, especially when they're feeling, I don't know, anxious or nervous because it's their first time in space?
Yeah, great question. I had a question earlier like that, and I think the best advice is plan for everything not to go right. Because, it's hard. That's hard, right? Because everybody has it, and particularly at NASA, right? So we try to think about every single thing that's going to happen and have all of the backup plans, but I don't think I've been on a spacewalk where everything has gone quite right. There's going to be, and we have a thing called at NASA Team 4. So that if something weird happens, this group gets together and tries to talk about it and try to figure out how to solve that problem. But that shouldn't be unexpected. We're in space. We're exploring. We're taking the next steps, and we're doing so much more in spacewalks than the guys did in the in the beginning, or even during the shuttle program. We're taking it to the next step, and so we should expect the unexpected, right? That's what. And so in your tool belt, you have to have all the skills to make sure you understand your systems and understand how to maybe fix problems that you have out there. So, and also with that, don't be afraid of asking for help. I had a foot restraint that was giving me a hard time, and I know I could have wasted half an hour playing with this thing, trying to move it from one position to another. And I'm like, hey, the guy I'm with was Butch Wilmore. He's huge, he's a big boy from Tennessee. And he's right there. Hey, Butch, come over here, help me out with this. So he on one side, me on the other side, we did it, and we moved on. And then you continue on your tasks. I think a lot of us are afraid to ask for help sometimes, when probably we should, just to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So expect the unexpected, ask for help.
Great, thank you.
Were you ever scared about not coming back?
No, not really. I think I knew that there would be a plan. When we were talking about right away coming back, and we also did this thing called a safe haven. I got a little this is not the best way to come home, because we didn't know everything about our spacecraft and about the thrusters that were on the spacecraft. The safe haven happens when if we might get hit by a micrometeorite, the mission control calls up and says, hey, everybody go to your spacecraft because you might undock. That's the safest place to be, because you might get hit, the station might get hit with something. And we actually did that while we were in the first month that we were up there. And it was a really surreal event, because we had about an hour. We sort of all met near the bathroom and the kitchen table, and we have a crew that was going to go home on a Soyuz, land in Kazakhstan. We'd have a crew that was going to go home on a Dragon and land in the Gulf of Mexico, America, whatever you want to call it. And then we had a crew that was going to go home and land in the desert in the Southwest. And we had an hour, so everyone's like, we all should go pee before we leave. So, and the bathroom is very particular, right? You don't want to turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, because you could break it. And so we hot peed. So we turned it on, and then one after another, went in to go pee, and then go to your separate spacecraft. But these are really good friends of mine, and we were hugging each other like, I hope I see you on Earth. I hope I see you on Earth. I hope I see you on Earth. That was weird. That was a little weird and scary. And that was if we had come home that time, then Butch and I would have had to come back in Starliner, where we didn't have all the questions answered about the thrusters. And we would have just done our best, because in that case, you might not want to stay on the space station if it's in peril. So you have what you have. It's your lifeboat, right? So
do you guys get together and process this, or debrief? Do you keep up with the guys, or has everybody gone to their
No. We're all still there, and we have a bunch of award ceremonies and things like that, are debriefs and award ceremonies for the folks that worked with us that are coming up for the rest of May. So, and then after that, I think people will start to spread apart. But we're in the U.S., and I flew with a lot of U.S. people, so that's easier. When I came back on Soyuz, we land in Kazakhstan, and then the Russians go to Moscow, and we come to the U.S. I mean, it's like 1 hour to say goodbye, and nobody's feeling good at the time either, so not really in the mood to hug. And then everybody's to the far winds, and so that was a little bit hard.
Yeah.
Because there's people that these are your brothers and sisters that you rely on and live with for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift that you're sharing this time.
I was writing an email, I think, that said it was an adventure worth sharing. So.
Yeah, well, we are so lucky, and thank you for the inspiration you are to so many people, and your lessons, and the tenacity and resilience and the hard work. It's unbelievable all you did throughout your career. I thought the message too, it's okay not to know what you want to do. Just keep your options open, work hard,
Yep,
too.
exactly.
And figure it out. And it's such a gift to have you here in this place. We're 250 years old here at this state of ours, but we've always been about innovation. We've been about science, research. That makes things go. And to have you, who's been there, back here with us is truly incredible and an honor. So thank you very much, Sonny Williams, for sharing.
Can I add one more thing? I just wanted to say, I think you all know this too, and I mentioned it today at the graduation. I mean, it's also, you're never doing anything alone. It's a team sport, and your family who supports you is huge.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Come on up here, you guys. You should know about this. What's your brother do?
Our brother runs nuclear medicine clinics.
Okay.
So he's the slacker.
But you know, it's amazing because you both have found your way into really important fields and endeavors, and appreciate the work that you do at Woods Hole, such an incredible institution in our state, and ASSAT, and then obviously everything that you're doing with NASA. So happy that we have a family reunion at the State House. Awesome. That's great. That's great. Thanks, everybody. Come back and see us again, okay? By the way, they may want to see the cod.
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to hear about the cod, okay?
Can we do a group selfie?
Yeah, great. Yeah, oh, that's a great idea. Yep. Come on in, everybody.
Like this way?
Pushing behind, wherever. Yeah.
Selfie?
Yeah.
Let's do it. How are we doing?
Right, everyone crowded.
Come on, everybody. We're gonna come forward.
All right, how fun was that? Looking at astronaut Suni Williams there with the governor and governor of Massachusetts after delivering the commencement speech this morning for their graduation at Merrimack College. Nice to hear her in an informal way and with her family there. I am coming up at the end of my time. Vanessa Rufus will be joining you here on WCNC Plus for Live Impact News coming up at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, want to turn it back over. Again, we're going to stay in Massachusetts. It looks like the Karen Reed retrial is back from lunch. The defense still in their cross-examination of Dr. Scordy Bello, the forensic pathologist, as they discuss hypothermia on day 16 of the Karen Reed retrial. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Autopsy, you observed for example, the lining of both the stomach and the pancreas. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was the word you used?
Let's start with the stomach. Did you observe the lining of the stomach as part of Mr. O'Keefe as part of the autopsy?
Yes, I observed some hemorrhages in the lining of the stomach.
We'll get to that, right? But I just want to talk about the organs and what aspects of the organs first, and then we'll get to that. And with regard to the pancreas, what aspect of the pancreas did you observe?
I examined both the external surface and the tissues around it, as well as the pancreas itself by making several cuts.
And there was also a histopathology report that was relevant to both the stomach and the pancreas, correct?
Correct.
Histopathology?
Spell it, Mr. Leslie.
Histopatholgy. So that histopath information informed your hypothermia analysis, is that correct?
The histopathology was done to further confirm my finding or my determination of hypothermia.
So, do I have it correct, and let's start with the pancreas, that you noted the pancreas was congested and diffusely hemorrhagic? Do I have that correct? And you feel free to look at your report, please.
I will.
And I specifically, if it helps, I'm
Yes.
looking at the report of autopsy. It's not numbered pages, but it would be 4. And you see liver, gallbladder, and pancreas is 1, and then you go down a couple more and you see digestive system. That's what I'm focusing on.
Okay.
And then, and the next page is the histopathology.
Yes.
All right, are we sort of oriented in the same location?
Yes.
All right, so let's start with the pancreas. So if you look at the histopathology page, it says endocrine and exocrine pancreatic tissue with vascular congestion and patchy parenchymal, that's parenchymal, hemorrhage, autolytic changes. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And I want to go at these one at a time, so I'm going to jump back to the previous page where you discussed the heading liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you see the last sentence says the pancreas is congested and diffusely hemorrhagic. You see that?
Yes.
So now what I'd like to do, and is that what you're rooting in, if you will, the analysis of hypothermia?
The determination of hypothermia was made, yes, based on these findings and the circumstances I was provided. Yes.
Right, and thank you. I'm going to get to the circumstances, but it's sort of the medical legal construct that we were talking about. I want to just start first with the medical, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
So then let's now move to the organ of the stomach, a synonym gastric in terms of your report. So let's go to, please, back to the histopathology section. And under that, under pancreas is stomach. And there's a bulleted one sentence that says gastric tissue with vascular congestion and focal mucosal hemorrhage. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And then let's go back, as we did with the pancreas, for the stomach, go back to the previous page in your report under the heading digestive system. And the second sentence states the gastric mucosa shows focal areas of linear hemorrhages. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
So we've got hemorrhage discussion with the pancreas. We've got hemorrhage discussion with the stomach and the gastric area. Your diagnosis of hypothermia was not based just on gastric and pancreatic hemorrhaging alone, though, was it?
No.
And you did fairly refer to other circumstances just moments ago in your answer, correct?
Correct.
And we're going to get to that. So that means that your diagnosis of hypothermia was also informed by the information we discussed earlier that was provided to you by former Trooper Proctor in his investigation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And one aspect of that information is that he was found, Mr. O'Keefe was found in the snow, correct?
Yes.
So let's go to the death notification report. Am I generally correct that you were, I'm sorry, I will. Thank you, Your Honor. Do you recall the death notification report in this matter?
I do recall, the very initial first information that comes in. That's the death notification given to our intake staff.
Do you recall the contents of that death notification report?
Would you like me to summarize? I don't recall I don't have it in front of me, but I can tell you what the gist of it was.
Would it be helpful to you if I showed you a document that might refresh your recollection on what that, a document that may refresh your recollection?
She said sure. I don't think you heard her.
I did. Thank you, Your Honor. May I approve? Yeah, approach your honor.
Yep,
Thank
just
you.
show Mr. Brennan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Scordi-Bello, what I'd like to do, you can read anything you want, but I'm just going to reference to the section that says circumstances of death.
Yes.
What I'd like you to do is read it to yourself, not out loud, and then when you, just that section up to here, and once you're done, if you could kindly look up and let me know.
Okay.
Dr. Scorti-Bello, did that refresh your recollection with regard to the circumstances of death section of the death notification report?
Yes.
And you could please state now what your refreshed recollection is on that topic.
Yes, the initial intake death notification was made by a physician at the hospital, and it stated that we were dealing with a adult male that was found in a snowbank. There was note of having been at a party. There was some information as to the decedent was walking to a house. There was reference to some sort of altercation or dispute with
Sustain.
Strike.
Jurors, disregard that. Move on with this, Mr. Leslie. With this, but just move on.
Yeah, yes. In terms of the differential diagnosis concept that we were talking about before, based upon your refreshed recollection of circumstances of death as discussed in the death notification report, based upon that, did you consider whether Mr. O'Keefe could have been injured and died somewhere other than the front lawn of 34 Fairview?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
initially no.
Let's go to significance, if any, of hemorrhaging of the two organs we were talking about, the pancreas and the stomach. Is it correct that the hemorrhaging of a pancreas can be caused by many different things?
Yes, it is.
And to be clear, you found evidence of hemorrhaging of the pancreas of Mr. O'Keefe in the autopsy, correct?
Correct.
And is it correct before the grand jury, you yourself were evaluating whether the injuries had been sustained in a different environment? Well, let me ask it this way. Do you recall what your testimony was in the grand jury about hemorrhaging of the pancreas and possibilities of injuries being sustained in different environments? Do you recall any testimony on that subject?
All right, I'll see you at 10.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Vanessa Rufus, taking over for Jane Monreal here on the Live Impact News studio. We were just listening in from the Boston, Massachusetts area to week 4 here, continuing with the Karen Reed retrial. We just heard from a forensic pathologist who was describing some of the autopsy procedures that she conducted on the victim, John O'Keefe. We were also looking live for a moment, just a few moments ago, inside the room where a forum is set to happen for the District 6 candidates, folks who will be appointed. Somebody will be appointed from this group to take over the vacated seat of former Councilman Tark Bakari. So just so you know, we are waiting for that to get underway. Keep in mind, this is not necessarily a public forum in the sense that the public is invited, although we are able to look in here. This will be strictly for city leaders to hear from the candidates in question, get their take on their stances on certain topics. And keep in mind, we're just a few days away from the city's self-imposed deadline to make an appointment for this seat. But you also saw in our 3-box live look from the Gastonia Chili Peppers, Ghost Peppers. Oh my gosh.
This is Caramont Health Ballpark.
Yeah, and for a bit of reference here, what we're seeing, obviously we don't play baseball with 200
chairs.
seats in the middle of the ball field. We're told they're actually setting up for a graduation ceremony,
it's
right?
Gaston College's commencement, supposed to happen at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
So maybe if we take this back tomorrow, we'll see some happy grads walking across the
Yeah,
stage.
that will be
turning the
so
tassel.
fun. Yes, hopefully we'll be able to show that to folks, and hopefully the weather holds out
Yes.
for that.
Congrats, grads.
Indeed, indeed. Big congrats to y'all. Hope that your graduation ceremony goes off without a hitch. Also on the weather front as well, we've got PGA Championship getting underway, so a lot of folks caring about the weather forecast. So with that, we want to turn to our latest check of weather impacts expected for the next few days. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Turning now to your forecast, and you know what? It is a gorgeous day out there. Sunshine all across the area.
Majestic storm joins us now. Thankfully, the majority of the rain is in our rearview mirror for this week.
Exactly. Today's going to be a really nice day. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures stay warm into the 80s, so you'll notice that increase in warmth and humidity. And then over the next couple of days as we're heading into our weekend, both Saturday and Friday, we'll be watching for a few isolated storms and showers. Nothing like the widespread and heavy rain that we already had earlier this week, but something that we'll definitely be watching at over the weekend. And then on Sunday, we're back on track to just nice warm conditions. You can see the difference a day makes. Yesterday, we hit 80 degrees. Today, we're forecasting 86 degrees. So we are definitely warming things up. Here's a look at our afternoon forecast. Generally, we will have plenty of sunshine, a few building clouds as we head into the afternoon, and we could see some storms actually develop over towards the mountains, but really the highest risk for that is well out of our viewing area. We're going to detail that out, but I want to start talking about the next few days because it's Thursday, but I know many of you already have the weekend in your mind. So we're looking at those very warm temperatures. Our average high is 80 degrees for our area, so we'll be above that for multiple days in a row. And as far as that severe weather risk goes today, really it's off to the north and to the west of us for the greatest risk. But as we head into our Friday, we'll have small opportunities for a few spotty showers, perhaps an isolated thunderstorm, but where we're really watching that area in red, that's where we will likely see some very strong storms develop, and perhaps out towards the mountain counties. Again, this is on Friday. Then once we fast forward again on Saturday, Storm Prediction Center does have our area under that low-end threat for a few storms. And really, as we're timing this out, it seems like it's going to be late on Friday and then in the early morning hours on Saturday. Futurecast looks like this. Here's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Generally, I just think it's going to be a really nice day to get outside and enjoy it. Even tonight, it could be a nice night to go find a patio, go have some dinner outside. And then as we head into the overnight hours and into Friday, here's 7 a.m. We're waking up, getting the kids off to school. We'll start out the day with a few more clouds, still dry. It's going to be those afternoon spotty showers and thunderstorms that we'll be watching for because they could be tricky. They could bring heavy downpours, brief gusty winds, and we're even seeing that through that 4 o'clock time frame. Here's 6 o'clock even, and then that system will move off to the east of us. This is the line that's a little bit more concerning, but notice as it tracks our direction, here's 6 a.m. on Saturday. It starts to become more disorganized, which is really what you like to see when we see a setup like that, but it's not out of the question that Saturday morning we see some scattered rain showers, but then look at this, by Saturday afternoon, back on track to gorgeous weather. It is going to get hot this weekend, not only hot, but also humid. Temperatures into the upper 80s, perhaps a low 90-degree temperature here and there. And once you add in that humidity, that's when it really gets hot. We're going to see those heat index values really rise into the upper 80s and even above 90 degrees. Low temperatures will even struggle to drop, only falling really into the 60s and 70s. And it's not until next week that we'll have our next best opportunity for more widespread rain. At this point, it seems like it'll move in Tuesday and into Wednesday. So from here on out, we'll have a little bit more sunshine than cloud coverage and definitely steering away from a lot of strong storms. So if you're heading out to the PGA, today is going to be fantastic. Grab the sunblock and the sunglasses. A little bit more cloud coverage tomorrow, but Lisa and Ben, this weekend overall doesn't look too bad at all.
All right, so there you have it, folks. We want to turn our attention back now to live images from the courtroom in the Boston, Massachusetts area. Karen Reed retrial has resumed here after a brief sidebar. Keep in mind, we've been hearing here from a forensic pathologist who's been discussing the autopsy procedure. Let's listen in.
Isn't it possible that a Lucas machine could cause hemorrhaging in the stomach?
Personally, I have not seen it in that context.
But do you rule that out?
I can't rule it out. I can only tell you my experience.
So your personal experience is you don't believe you've seen that, but you can't rule out that a Lucas machine causes hemorrhaging to the stomach. Is that correct?
I don't believe a Lucas machine causes hemorrhage to the mucosa of the stomach.
Right. I'm not yet at the mucosa of the stomach, which is a subset of the stomach, right? You're talking about the gastric rugae.
Talking about the inner lining of the
inner
stomach.
lining, and another name for the inner lining of the stomach is the gastric rugae, R-U-G-A-E, correct?
Yes.
So I'm just talking about the stomach in general, not a subset of the stomach. Is it possible that a Lucas machine could cause hemorrhaging in the stomach?
Not in the stomach, around the stomach, in the soft tissues of the torso.
Okay. So you've said that you're aware that Mr. O'Keefe was hooked up to a Lucas machine, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware of the length of time that Mr. O'Keefe was hooked up to a Lucas machine?
No, I am not.
Do you know how many compressions per minute a Lucas machine causes?
I would have to say close to 60.
Would 100 compressions per minute be a reasonable amount of compressions for a Lucas machine to cause?
Sure.
So assume 37 minutes of a person hooked up to a Lucas machine, and assume 100 compressions per minute. That would result in 3,700 compressions from a Lucas machine, correct?
Correct.
Could 3,700 compressions from a Lucas machine explain hemorrhaging in the pancreas?
You could.
And that explanation could be why there's hemorrhaging in the pancreas as opposed to hypothermia causing hemorrhaging in the pancreas, correct?
Possible.
Did you consider that at all in your autopsy report, the effect of the Lucas machine? Is it written anywhere in your autopsy report?
I do consider changes due to cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The rib fractures that were observed were attributed to CPR. Usually we will see some amount of hemorrhage in the soft tissues, but in this context, with the gastric findings, the pancreatic findings, and the information that he was found in the snow with the body temperature of 80 degrees, my opinion was that those hemorrhages, along with the gastric hemorrhages and his body temperature, were consistent with hypothermia.
My question was, does your report state anywhere the words Lucas machine?
No.
And you agree that a Lucas machine could cause hemorrhaging to the pancreas?
It can cause hemorrhage in a lot of tissues.
But including the pancreas?
Including the pancreas.
If you see hemorrhaging of the pancreas and you believe that hemorrhaging is a contributor to hypothermic deaths, wouldn't you also expect to see Wisniewski ulcers?
I did note gastric hemorrhages.
So the court reporter needs to have a spelling of that. Doctor, can you give us the spelling of that?
Would you like to give it?
If you'd like me to, I'm prepared to give it. Thank you. Wischnewski. So, can you just tell the jurors what Wisniewski spots or Wisniewski ulcers are?
Wisniewski spots are small hemorrhages, small areas of bleeding in the mucosa of the stomach that are thought to be associated with hypothermia, among other things. They're believed to be either a reaction to stress due to the hypothermia or some form of what we call reperfusion injury.
Is it correct that if someone is believed to die, at least in part, from hypothermia, that in 90% of the cases of death from hypothermia, you would find Wisniewski's ulcers?
I do not know the exact number.
Is it that you're not recalling what the percentage is for the percent of cases for death of hypothermia that you would expect to find Wisniewski's ulcers?
I don't.
Do you recall?
Hold on. Move on. The objection sustained. So
Okay.
you're asking if, yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. There were no Wisniewski's ulcers present in Mr. O'Keefe. Is that correct?
I believe there were.
Can you point anywhere in your autopsy report where the word Wisniewski appears?
I did not call them Wisniewski spots. I called them gastric hemorrhages.
Right, so you didn't use the term Wisniewski and you didn't use the term ulcer, correct? In your report at all?
No, I used gastric hemorrhages under the title of hypothermia.
Do you believe that all hemorrhages in the pancreas are Wisniewski ulcers?
You mean the stomach?
I want to start with the pancreas.
Wisniewski ulcers are, the term is used to describe the gastric hemorrhages.
Right, so I wanted to clarify that. So now I want to move to the stomach.
Okay.
Do you believe all hemorrhages in the stomach are Wisniewski ulcers?
Not all of them.
Therefore, there can be Wisniewski ulcers and not be hemorrhaging, correct? Just by logic?
And not be hemorrhaging?
Correct. You can have a Wisniewski ulcer but not have hemorrhaging.
You could, but ulceration would manifest in what we call hemorrhage, the actual appearance of it.
What I'd like to do now is, Mr. Wolf, what has been in evidence, what I'd like to do is to, with your Honor's permission, publish some depictions of first the gastric mucosa and then start with that, Your Honor, publish that.
All right. So this is the one that we have not introduced into evidence openly, but at sidebar, right?
What I'd like to do is I'll start out with the one that is in evidence, which is the gastric mucosa.
Okay,
start with that.
What number?
Your Honor, just to...
Okay, so that was the one I was referring to that we did at sidebar, not in open court. Okay.
Yes.
It's NN for identification.
And I'd like to move NN into evidence at this time.
All right. All I'll say about this, jurors, is that this may be considered graphic. You satisfied with that, Mr. Alessi?
I'm satisfied with that, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Brennan, you satisfied with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
164.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Dr. Sturtubello, I'm handing you Exhibit 164 in evidence, and I'm going
For folks who are listening in here live on this Karen Reed retrial, just want to reiterate what we heard the judge just say a few moments ago, that some of the imagery we might start to see here as they're talking about the autopsy could be graphic. So we just wanted to give you a further disclaimer. We'll listen back in now.
Dr. Sturtubello, do you recognize 164 as the, well, you describe what 164 is.
This is a picture of the stomach of Mr. O'Keefe after it was removed and opened and the contents were removed. And what you're looking at, this pink red surface, is the mucosa. That's the lining of the stomach. And you had used the word rouillé before. These are the folds. The stomach has a lot of folds. And what you can see here are small areas that are redder than everything else. That's hemorrhage, that's blood. And these are the gastric hemorrhages that I described.
Right, so those are what you just showed. There's darker areas, there's just a few of them. That is what you refer to as hemorrhages, correct?
Wisniewski's was, correct.
Well, you didn't use Wisniewski's in your report, correct? You referred to them as hemorrhages.
Correct.
Okay. So what I'd like to do now is to, if I may approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
For the chalk.
Exhibit MM.
With your Honor's permission, may I show Dr. Sturtubello the chalk that's marked for identification as MM?
Yes, and let's see what she answers before we use it for more questions, okay?
Yes. May I hand it to you?
Yes.
Dr. Sturtubello, could you please take what's identified as Exhibit M and see if you can identify what that depicts?
Yes, this is a picture of a stomach, again, the mucosa with hemorrhage.
Just hold for the, sorry, not your fault.
Your Honor, can we take a break?
Yes.
Jurors.
Yes.
Rise to the jury. Jurors, right this way, please.
All right, folks, live Impact News on WCNC Plus as the sidebar is underway in the Karen Reed retrial. We want to turn your attention now to a State Department briefing. This is the principal deputy spokesperson for the Department of State, Tommy Pigott. Let's listen in now.
Designation that's under consideration, which the president had mentioned as genocide is happening there. There is a lot of evidence, public evidence, that is in open sources of farmers, white farmers not wanting to come, of black killings exceeding by large measure white killings in the crime problem that they do have, and that there is no white genocide to justify this kind of extraordinary accelerated refugee process for white South Africans. On the same day that temporary protective status was withdrawn from Afghans, thousands of them, many of whom are sponsored by U.S. military veterans because they were their translators. So can you unpack that and the disparity in treatment, and what is the status of any kind of genocide investigation on what is happening to white South Africans?
Well, the president has been very clear, the concerns that he has in terms of South Africa. He has expressed those publicly and often. When it comes to temporary protected status, I refer you to DHS. That was always meant as a temporary program, a temporary benefit, but I refer you to DHS for more questions on that. Again, when it comes to the new arrivals that we saw, what we saw was a president who identified a priority that we fulfilled here at the State Department. And what's also clear is that the refugees that arrived met the same standard that is across the board for refugees. They met that standard. So what we're seeing here is a president who has been clear about his concerns with South Africa, and the State Department has acted on that, and the refugees that we saw met the standard in statute for refugees.
The standard may be uniform, but the speed is not. We have people, Afghans, who are still in refugee camps since the fall of Afghanistan, of the Afghanistan regime, who are waiting to hear about SIV status, who are waiting to hear about refugee status, who have worked with the U.S. They are in Doha, they are in Albania, they're in Pakistan for years waiting to get the kind of treatment. And that is not a DHS function, that is a State Department function.
Well, on that SIV front, SIV interviews continue. That process continues. What we have seen, again, is a president being very clear about concerns he has regarding South Africa and the treatment of Afrikaners in South Africa.
Is there data to back that up? Or is it all anecdotal from advisors?
Well, this has been a concern that the president's had for a very long time. He's been clear about that for years, about the abuses we are seeing in South Africa. So this is a priority outlined by the president. The president then directed the State Department and others to implement that priority, and we're seeing the State Department fulfill those executive orders.
Is there a formal genocide investigation underway at the State Department?
Like again, the president has spoken to this. I refer you to his comments. Nothing further to add on that front.
But Tommy, just to follow up, I mean, what evidence can you share today from the podium to underscore there's a genocide going on in South Africa against the white?
Well, look, the president, again, has been very clear on this. I refer you to his comments. When it comes to the treatment of the refugees that we saw arrive, that is that same standard in statute for refugees. And there were harrowing stories that they told about the treatment that they suffered. So what we are seeing is a problem that's been identified by the president and the State Department fulfilling those executive orders. Again, we have heard these stories that have come through. The refugees there met the same statute for refugees that is uniform and standard, and that'll continue to implement the president's priorities in this regard.
I just have one more question on this.
Sure.
You said they met the same statute, which indicates that there are others who are in the same exact boat that they are in right now around the world. So why was it a decision to prioritize these refugees over other refugees? And was there any racial element to this because they're white?
So I want to just, on that first part, what I mean there is there's a certain standard that's outlined. There's certain criteria that needs to be met. That's what I meant in terms of that standard. So there's a certain standard that is applied when someone's applying for a refugee status in this program. And so that standard is uniform across the board. So I want to clarify that aspect of it. And again, the president has been very clear about the actions we are seeing.
Okay, folks, we're breaking in here with some new information we're getting as far as roadway impacts in the Pineville area. We've just learned that there's a closure that's happening near the train tracks on Main Street, which is causing some issues, and it sounds like police are even forced at this point to come out and direct traffic. We're still trying to get some more detail on exactly what is causing causing this blockage on the train tracks, whether it's a train, whether it's something else that might be stuck on the tracks, or maybe there's just a crash in the area. But we are hearing that this is going to be closed to through traffic right there at the railroad crossing. Once again, this is Main Street, and the closures between Downs Road and Dover Street. So we will continue to keep you updated on that incident. And with that, we will send you back to the State Department briefing. Of course, here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, any new breaking information will break back in and let you know immediately.
Definition of genocide is normally something that is determined by the Secretary of State. So just want to clarify, are you saying that this is now something that is determined by the President of the United States? And that's why I think Andrea was asking if there is an investigation in this building into whether that designation for genocide is being determined in this building still, or if something has changed.
Well, again, as I said, the president's been very clear about the issues that we have regarding South Africa. He's been very clear on that continually. I have nothing further to add at this point.
It's a legal determination. It's not a determination made by the President of the United States. That's why we're asking.
Again, I address this issue in terms of the president's been very clear about the issues we've seen from the State Department's perspective. There's a priority laid out by the president. We are fulfilling that priority. And again, the stories that we have heard are harrowing. And so we're seeing the fact that these people have met that same standard for refugees, and we're seeing the State Department fulfill the executive orders of the president.
Did they also get, did you also look through their social media files? I mean, because there's some, to look for anti-Semitism, for instance, for some of the people who came.
Well, as a matter of general policy, we're unable to comment on specifics of that nature, and so I'm not going to do that from the podium here.
Can I
Yes.
I just have a totally different question before we get on to the Middle East.
All right.
I had a question on Cuba. The deputy foreign minister is saying that there's no Chinese spy base on the island, and is dismissing some recent satellite images. I just wonder what your assessment is.
We will not talk about intelligence matters from the podium, so at this point, nothing to add on that. No comment. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. Going back to Gaza on the issue of the aid, of course. Now, for all the months before the January 19 agreement, aid was going in, even in the most intensive fighting that occurred over a period of more than a year. Aid was still going in. What has happened since March 2nd until now that disallows aid to go in? Do we have like a timetable? And isn't it really ironic that the Palestinians, have demand a measure of basic human right, the right to eat, on the day, the 15th of May, which is the 77th anniversary of their catastrophe. We still have to talk and debate whether they have a right to eat or not.
Well, what I can tell you what's happened is there has been this proposal to get aid into Gaza in a creative way that makes sure Hamas cannot steal it. That is what I can tell you has happened, and the United States has endorsed that effort to get aid in there. So that is what has happened, and what I can also tell you what happened is on October 7th, Hamas coming in, committing atrocities. Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict, but as the Secretary just described, we care about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. That's why we have endorsed this measure to get aid in there. That's why we have seen this be a constant topic of conversation here at the podium and elsewhere. And what we are seeing from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's announcement is a creative way to get in there and make sure aid is reaching the people that actually need it.
Do we have a timetable for this? I mean, can we say like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, the aid can go in?
Well, look, what we're looking to is that delivering of aid by the end of the month, but ultimately I refer to the foundation for more details on the specifics of that. Yes.
Thank you. One follow-up on Gaza, and I will also ask on Syria. Can you provide us more details about who will, fund this new foundation, Gaza Foundation, and what role the U.S. will actually play in the aid delivery?
Well, ultimately, I refer you to the foundation for more details on the specifics of that nature. As the Secretary has said, we welcome this announcement to get aid in there, but I refer you to the foundation for more details.
And on Syria, Secretary Rubio met Syrian Foreign Minister Al-Shaiban and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan today in Antalya, Turkey. You just shared a readout of the meeting. Secretary Rubio said right after the meeting that the U.S. Will start with initial waivers instead of fully lifting the sanctions. Can you provide more details on when and under what conditions these sanctions might be fully lifted? And, will the U.S. do anything to contribute to the reconstruction of Syria? Was this discussed during the meeting too?
Look, what I can say, as the Secretary said during those comments, is that this is something that had been discussed, worked on, options considered for many weeks leading up to this announcement, and that we are going to be implementing what the President has announced as an administration. In terms of exact timelines, I have nothing further to preview on that front now, except for to say the fact that we are moving now to implement this announcement, and this was something that was discussed, as the Secretary said himself, for many weeks leading up to this announcement. Sir.
Can we come back to the Gaza Foundation? Just to try to get some clarity on this. So you're talking about this being, the US has endorsed it, you're praising this creative thinking. Whose plan is it? Who is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
Well, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a foundation. I mean, I refer you to them for more details on their leadership. But
Should we call this a U.S. plan? Is it an Israeli plan? The UN has said they're not going to be involved in it. So, you know, who do we credit with this creative thinking?
Well, again, as I said earlier, this is an independent plan in terms of making sure that aid reaches the people that need it. As the Secretary said, we endorse this plan in the sense that we want to see creative solutions. As he also said, if there are better options to get aid in there, we'd like to see those options provided. But ultimately, again, as he said, our priority here is making sure that aid gets to the people that need it in a way where that aid is not stolen by Hamas or other terrorists.
When you say endorse, it sounds like kind of moral support, but is the U.S. providing any funding for this?
Like, I refer you to the foundation for details on their funding, but
Why is that after the foundation?
I have nothing to...
Okay, so folks, we will bring you back to the State Department as more information comes out of that briefing. Meantime, we wanted to turn to a big event getting underway, teeing off today here in the Charlotte area over at Quail Hollow Golf Club. We've got the PGA Championship in town for the next few days, and we've got lots of fans in town as well. Ariana King has been spending the day speaking to some of the folks there, perusing the course, walking around, enjoying some golf, and hopefully a little bit of the weather as well. We know it's on the toastier side for the next few days. But Anna, how is it looking out there? What are folks telling you as far as the experience thus far?
Well, you are absolutely correct. It is a little toasty out here. It's definitely humid, but I am just off the practice course, and the energy out here is amazing. I've been speaking with fans all day who say they are excited to see one of golf's biggest events happening right here in the Queen City. Now, it has been 8 years since Charlotte last hosted the PGA Championship back in 2017, though. The tournament brought in $100 million to the area, and this year city officials are expected to top that. Now, with thousands of fans pouring in, it's not just a golf course. Getting a workout, hotels, restaurants, parking lots, and shuttle services are all in high demand. And fans today say this tournament is the perfect opportunity for the city to show. It's meant for, you know, more, just so much more. They say this event is sure to bring in more fans also to the game. Vanessa.
I don't know if you've been able to speak with a lot of folks or a handful of folks in your time out there. Are you hearing mostly locals who are enjoying today's events, or do you think that we're seeing maybe more folks from out of town? Just trying to get a read, because we know that there were certain days that were sold quicker than others as far as passes. So I'm just curious what Thursday's looking like.
Yeah, I've spoken to so many people out here. People from all across the country came here. I spoke to people from California, Georgia, and of course here locally. They all say the same thing. Some people say that they are huge golf fans though, and other people say that they're just getting into it. So everyone's excited to really just be out here and honestly just to watch day one of this championship take off.
We know, Anna, that you'll be joining us later here on WCNC Plus as our regular evening newscasts get underway. You have some reports coming up at 4, 5, and 6. What sort of information will folks be expecting from you then, and what sort of topics will you be touching on for us?
Yeah, so around 4, 5, and 6, I'll be speaking to, or we'll be hearing from more fans just about their experience out here and also just the economic impact this championship brings to the Queen City. We break down some of those numbers and also spoke to people just about what they're excited to see as they're out here. So yeah, we'll have more for that coming up here in the later shows.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, Anna, thanks so much for spending some time. We'll let you get back to work, and we'll remind folks once again, we are going to be covering the PGA Championship all evening long. We're actually set to speak with Danielle Stein, one of our sports reporters, coming up at 3:30, so she'll give us a look at maybe how the grounds are looking as far as the golf action. We know it's been pretty soggy to start the week, and things are hopefully maybe drying out, although I know it sounds like it's been giving some folks trouble out there as far as their golf game. But She'll be joining us in just a little bit to talk about that. Our own Brad Panovich will be speaking on weather impacts, because we know lots of folks milling about outside. If it gets super toasty, that can certainly have an impact on people. And so we'll just advise you to stay tuned here on WCNC Plus. All right, with that, we do want to turn to, as promised, breaking updates here on that incident at the train tracks in the Pineville area. So we've gotten a few more details, some more information, and we've gotten a photo here of what looks to be, indeed, a train stuck on the tracks. The good news is we're actually hearing that Main Street has since reopened. This is according to Pineville Police. So we were able to confirm the train stalled, although we don't know why the train stalled at this point. Police are directing us to Norfolk Southern. There are no spills, no injuries reported, so seemingly everything is back to the way it was before. And of course, as we get more information on exactly what might have caused the train to stall, we will break back in with that information here on Live Impact News. Okay, so we teased for you just a few moments ago that we were keeping an eye on this candidate forum that is underway, City of Charlotte. We've mentioned how the District 6 council position has been vacant for a bit now since former Councilman Tark Bakari resigned from that position to take a job within the Trump administration. And so now city leaders are tasked within the next couple of days of making a decision of who will fill that seat. We talked about Tark Bakari's own wife, Krista Bakari, being among those who have put their hat into the ring, and there's a handful of other folks who are now going to be, as you see here, speaking to city leaders, talking about their platform, their stances on certain topics. And we talked about the 19th being the self-imposed deadline that the city has for itself to make a selection for the seat, keeping in mind that in November, the seat will actually be up for grabs for anyone, and that will go to an election for the voters to decide, as all city races are coming up in November. So let's listen in live and see what we can deduce from our candidates speaking this afternoon.
Place that they can rent but ultimately own and build equity in the community. So I left Washington, D.C. with a 1-month-old and moved back to Charlotte in 2003. Amy and I had our second child 16 months later. And then my ventures in service began in something called Rotary. I joined the Rotary Club of Charlotte in 2003. At that time, I had no idea what this great international service organization was. I was in the buffet line, and I bumped into, many people here know, the former executive director, Dee Dee Murphy from Leadership Charlotte. And she asked me, was I going to apply to Leadership Charlotte? And I'd already applied twice, and I didn't get in. And I told her, I said, Dee Dee, I'm a baseball player. I take free swings at everything. And so I applied, and I got in. And if anybody's been through the program, it gives you an incredible kaleidoscope view of this great community. And when we finish, you know that you're called to do something. And not many of my classmates thought to run for office, but I did. And that was what got me here, and when I was blessed to be elected in 2007 and served with you for 4 years. So I'm back seeking the position for 6 months. I've indicated on my application that I don't intend to run for the seat or run for office. I hope that I can answer any questions that you all have about my background or experience that I've listed on my resume. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is James Frederick Rice.
Well, hello. I guess I'm last. Tail end Charlie. My name is Fred Rice. I apologize. I woke up this morning and my voice was gone. I'm not sure what that's about. I've been in Charlotte, not in politics in any way, since 1983. I moved here from Florida to be the manager of a large medical practice. I got there by being born in Philadelphia and leaving when I was 5. My father moved around a lot, and he was a part-time soldier. And one of the things, he took us to Florida, where I started the first grade. That was my third move, by the way, by that point. He went off to war in Korea. He was gone for 33 months in combat. He kept volunteering to go back. When he returned, he was not the same man. And he and my family, he decided to be a paratrooper of all things. So we moved with the 11th Airborne to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I spent, I guess that was by then the 3rd through this part of the 6th grade. And then he took a job in Miami. He always wanted to go to Florida, so off we went to Miami. That lasted for a few years. I spent another 5th and 6th and part of the 7th grade in Miami. And then the Korean War never left my dad. He never left the Korean War. And he and my mother divorced. I was in the 7th grade. Pardon my voice. My mother was looking for employment, and she moved her family at that point. Give me a second. With my 2 younger sisters rather, we moved to a small town in Central Florida. I mean small, less than 5,000 people. And where she could find employment, and that's where we were. Thank you. I poured one and forgot it, so thank you so much. We stayed in that small town where I did part of the 7th grade and then the 8th and 9th and 10th grade in a very small school. Each of the classrooms was one whole class. She moved to the next largest town, around 15,000 people, where I finished my basic education, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Graduated from Haines City High School in '62. Was fortunate enough to get into the University of Florida in '63. I'm a Gator. Somebody else is a Gator. My children are Gators, by the way. But I found out when I got there that as try as I could not find a way to finance any education beyond my first year. I had managed to accumulate $1,500 in debt at a local bank. There was no student loan back then. And with my mother's signature, I was 18 years old, pretty bright, motivated, but there's no money. So I went back home, decided that I might as well go into the military and get it over with. Now this was '63, so things were quiet at that point. I went, excuse me, there's a point to this. I went to see my high school principal, and I'd always worked. I never had an allowance, never. It was always what I made. When you're a young teenager, that's mowing yards and stuff like that. He took me to see my local banker, local bank president, and he told me he wanted to interview me for an idea he had, and we did. We talked for 3 hours. And the 3-hour interview resulted in him offering me a chance to, in effect, work for him.
I'm sorry that we have to stop at this point.
Okay.
And unless you have a closing statement or
Okay. Sorry, I spent a career in banking in Florida. I came to Charlotte managing large medical practices. I was recruited by the Carolinas healthcare system as a senior VP for physician practice acquisition in 1993. I
So
helped
you
them,
must
but-
have had a great experience in our city in healthcare. You've seen banking and healthcare.
Yep.
So thank you very much
Okay.
for helping us, reminding us of how important some of the things that we do
Well,
today.
my
Thank
point
you.
there is that there are two things in our lives that are very important to us, our health care and our money. And I'm very experienced at managing both of those. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, now it's time to open the floor from the council members for any, if you have a question, please
Madam Mayor.
direct it to the correct.
Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry.
If I could interrupt just for a moment. So we do have an applicant here, Miss Larisha Poor, who was able to show me the correct spelling of her name. And I was able to pull it up on the North Carolina Board of Elections that she is a registered Republican voter, which means she would be eligible
Thank
to
you.
speak today, if that's.
Thank you for stepping up and making sure that that happens. So we will now have another speaker. And let's see, Ms. Poor, is it?
Larisha.
Larisha? All right, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for standing up.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, my name is Larisha Poor, and thank you to the mayor and to the city council for taking out the time to hear me introduce myself on the importance of this role and opportunity to be able to sit on the council. I am a proud resident of District 6, Mecklenburg County, and of course, of Charlotte. I did not submit this application with light intentions. This application is submitted with pride, and I sought after the opportunity to share insight, collaborate, and to partner with the existing council members to ensure that we are able to overturn disparities in our city. Yes, we have our 5 great points. You know, for me, the one that stands out the most is having a great neighborhood. I take pride in my neighborhood. Where I reside, it's important to me because I made Charlotte my home 19 years ago when I'm a transplant from Ohio. It is now a place where I can stand proud to say I can recommend people to move here. As we know, monthly, several people are moving here because of the wealth and the opportunity and the place of hope that Charlotte provides. My integral background that I have is to make a positive change with influence, to be able to see the success of the initiatives and the goals that the city has already put into place in the first quarter, the things that you've already accomplished, to really make sure that we're pushing and thrusting forward by making sure the information is shared properly and to all people, to make sure that people are aware that it's important to vote and to be a part of these meetings just like this. I currently, right now, work for Mecklenburg County, which I take pride in working there. I work there not only because I'm a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault, where I volunteered in this community, and this city helped me to get back to where I was to stand proud in front of this forum. I go into schools every day through CMS to be able to share about the awareness of teen dating violence. And I hear young people share wise beyond their years of the challenges that 1 in 3 teens will experience dating violence. That's important to me in my city. How can we overturn this? How can we make sure that we're able to change that number and to turn it around for the good? It's because of conversations that are held right in this meeting setting. It's important that we continue to communicate prosperity and positivity in our community because there's so many tragedies and things that are happening, but there's so much light and hope in this city that if we all thrust forward in the area of that, we will be able to continue to tear down the things that have been trying to hold our city back. Our areas and communities need our support, and that's what I'm here to do. My dad raised me to have my boots on the ground. My first job in the Board of Elections in Ohio, making sure that I was aware of the House and the Senate, to make sure that I was a registered voter at a very young age, to make sure that I encouraged people to vote. Our voice must be heard. And if given the opportunity to be able to sit on the council, I will continue to encourage people to let them know that their voice matters. The issues that happen, that are going on, that may be small to someone, can be brought right to this forum, and things I've seen this council overturn and make a difference. If given the opportunity, I do plan on running in the fall to be able to fill the seat and to run it. And I'm excited because I never thought that I would be able to have this opportunity to do this. Sometimes you think that the world has counted you out or you've been knocked down. Being able to stand up flat-footed and know what you stand for and know what you're going to do provides a positive influence and makes a mark on the stage of where our city is going. Look at us. The Umbrella Center is about to be built in 16 months. That's major. And the city of Charlotte is supporting that. Look at what we've done, not just with the airport, but all the laws and things that have changed to make our city a better place. If given the opportunity, I will support those things and make sure my voice is heard because my community is my voice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does this close our portion of the presentation? And so if we'll now open this to the council members to acknowledge, or I think if you could just have a question towards and direct it to the person or the persons that you would like to. I'm going to start with the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you all for coming out and taking time out of your day to speak to us. I greatly appreciate that. I have a question for Mr. Peacock and Mr. Doolin, if you could both go to the podium. I mean, your unique experience of having served on this council before at different times and on different initiatives. I'm interested in any difference that you would bring to this seat representing District 6. So based on your past experience, is there anything that we're missing on this council as it relates to District 6 or the broader city in general?
Yeah, thank you, Pro Tem. It turns out one of the things both of us would bring, and particularly since you're in your budget season now, it takes 2 years, as you know, during budget season to know how to open your book and to read it and to learn it and to understand it sometimes. One of the things I would bring is immediate awareness of the budget book and the agendas that come every week. Knowing what tab to go to so I can start learning. I think the ramp up for me, particularly in District 6, after having served it for 8 years already, will be very small. There'll certainly be some ramp up because it's been a number of years since I've been down here. It's wonderful to walk through this building again, though. It feels like home. This room feels like home. And so I'm just excited about if y'all would give me the honor and the nod to come back down and join you. My ramp up will be very small. As a district rep, you see every corner, every house. As an at-large member, the at-large folks are thinking on a more global stage, you know, everything. Of course, as a district guy, we make decisions for zoning all over the city. But I am laser focused in District 6 and know those folks and know their churches and would really have a good time going back and reintroducing myself to them again. I'm hearing positive things from all over the community already that it's come out in the paper and a couple of media outlets, you know, that I'm involved in, and so the positive outlook for that would be great. And with y'all's nod, I'll come down here with my boots strapped up and tight and ready to go.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it. Can
Yes,
we
ma'am.
give Mr. Peacock an opportunity?
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Are you missing anything? I don't think you're missing anything. When I made my point about perspective, when I was here 14 years ago, And when you step away from the dais and you move away from what I call the fishbowl effect of 600 East 4th Street, you tend to notice first and foremost that obviously the smallest ripples in the bowl seem really, really, really big in the moment. But when you step outside of it, it really allows you the perspective to see, well, what is most important? And during Andy and I's time here, you didn't know it when it was occurring, but we had one of those, what I'll call lighthouse moments. We were the lighthouse looking at a decision to use our half-cent sales tax to expand bus rapid transit and then cut the line for the light rail. And there was an enormous amount at risk. The year that I was elected, we had members of my own party who were against light rail, who were against a mass transit program. Then Mayor McCrory was making some very bold decisions that both sides, he had all types of people angry at him, but he followed staff's recommendations. He bucked the trend of his own party, and our town had a referendum on that half-cent sales tax. And I think when you talk about what's missing, it's just simply just trying to have perspective, because I know what it's like to be where you are and to sort of feel that intense pressure. But between now and when this council finishes, the 1st of December, you know, I don't think that you're missing anything. I would just say, you know, perspective. Keep your lighthouse up and just realize that the small things that occur, it's natural in a small deliberative body. And the more that you can do to obviously work on the relationships between each other. One of the other perspectives that I thought about was something that my dad talked to me about. He said, Edwin, I don't remember a vote. I don't remember a lot of these things that we would debate, but I do remember how my colleagues would make me feel. And it sort of comes back to something that my grandmother told me, which was, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And right here in this very room, in 2009, my mother got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She was down in Wilmington at the time, at the beach. And Councilmember Turner, sitting right where you are, Mrs. Anderson, he leaned over to me and I told him what was going on. And all he did was just stop right there and said, "It's not your mom's time. Let's pray." I'll never forget that. Never forget that. That went on with Councilmember Mitchell and other condolences and all kinds of things just about what was going on. So relationships, having that kind of lighthouse perspective, I think is just so important because, again, this is tough work, and you all do something that very few people are willing to step in to do. So I have great humility and respect for the position that you're in, and I think that I would do well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. Any other, Ms. Molina?
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you to every last one of you that decided to step up and come out today. I know from personal experience, and the Mayor Pro Tem also knows what this particular experience is like. I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on, you know, my heart is my center. It is how I do everything. I don't do anything that my heart don't lead me to. It is my deal maker and my deal breaker. And I think what was evident from every last one of you was the fact that it was demonstrative of your heart in the position. And that's what it takes to lead here. I'll go back to what Mr. Peacock just said. You know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's the core of what we do, right? The core of what we do is caring about the people that we have the honor to represent. So, like I said, I just think that that was demonstrative in each of you, and I think that's highly commendable. So, you know, no matter what the outcome of this exercise is, I commend you and I ask you to continue to look for ways that you can serve in our city, because there's room for everyone. It takes a village to be a great city. It takes...
All right, folks, you'll notice we've taken this Council District 6 forum in full. We were seeing some imagery from the Karen Reed retrial while we were in that 3-box, and we had prefaced before pulling up some of these live feeds that this is a court proceeding where we're hearing specific details about the autopsy today. So some of the imagery we're seeing could be disturbing for folks, and we just wanted to make sure that we weren't subjecting anyone to something too gruesome, but it looked like they were looking at some of the wounds on the victim, John O'Keefe. But we'll listen here now in full, the Charlotte District 6 Council Forum, which is underway.
That, and I'll start with you, Mr. Peacock, and then I'll ask you as well, Mr. Doolin. I think it's important that, especially now with the budget season underway, this is a very intense exercise, as you both know. But one of the things that I think is of particular emphasis right now is the 1-cent sales tax. And adjacent to what has happened in the past with the half-cent sales tax, you sound to be adept at that particular milestone of the city's evolution. But can you tell me what you know about the current referendum or anything that would affect particularly the District 6 residents and having some compass of what their position would be?
Well, I've been on the record of being very much in favor of our mass transit plan and our economic mobility plan, are clearly a multimodal transit plan. And part of that half-cent sales tax discussion that we had in 2007 is largely proven to be exactly what ULI told us, clearly what the city staff planners told us about the opportunity for improvement, not only in reducing congestion, but clearly economic development, and you see that in tenfold from there. As we approach the 1-cent sales tax, the one thing I've learned is that you can't take this for granted. We can't assume that what the consultants are telling you speak to the sentiment of what individuals are. And I can only speak back to other referendum attempts that were for different purposes. But one thing that I have noticed is that, of course, we've got election fatigue from last year. So we have to have a council that can communicate and communicate clearly and concisely in order to build the momentum necessary in order to get, I would call, general election support to get behind this necessary tax for to expand the bus rapid transit. Still the majority of the ways in which individuals travel in this city. Innovations are occurring in that, and then obviously the light rail plans are a big part of it. So I just would say that we cannot take it for granted that we can't assume that individuals are going to support this. In fact, as you want to almost operate as if they've never heard of this. And I just think that's so important. Every single member of the council will have to make their own individual decisions as to how much they want to get involved in being out front about it. But it's going to be tremendously important, because you look at that decision that we made in 2007, if we didn't do that, where would we be now, and would we have experienced the type of growth that we've experienced now? And I think the answer is not as much, and I think there was an enormous amount within the business community, which I'd like to see come back and rally around what this council is doing, and obviously partner with Mecklenburg County and our other elected officials as well too, because the thing about that referendum was it was broad-based. Faith community, business community, elected bodies, corporate community, people were really engaged, and I think that's so important. I want to see that energy return to the community to get behind a real transit plan that speaks to everybody and is also nimble enough to respond to, I think, obviously the outliers that have their concerns, which are obviously the 6 towns. They're always going to be skeptical of something that comes from uptown.
Thank you. Mr. Doolin?
Yes, thank you for the question, ma'am. District 6 is a unique district within the city of Charlotte. It's the only one that doesn't have an interstate or Independence Boulevard or South Boulevard or 485. It is really contained in a somewhat urban environment. I mean, we don't have 277. That being said, though, and he makes a good point, District 6 voters supported that referendum. And what would be helpful to council and to the city is to have a salesman like myself to go out and sell it at the HOA meetings and, sell it at the churches, when they get together. And I used to get the list of every HOA meeting, and darned if I didn't go to 99% of them. And so that's one of the part when I said that the city council is thinking on a global stage, globally being the whole city. Well, District 6 is this little enclave in South Charlotte that doesn't have a mass transit line coming through. We have bus service, and the buses have folks on them because I look. But, you know, that's particular question is something that I think I would be good at helping sell to the community.
Thank you so much. And that's all I have for now, Madam Mayor.
And any other questions down here? Ms. Watlington?
Thank you. My questions are...
Folks, we want to turn to some live breaking news that we're getting here in the Live Impact News studio. We're getting some new images out of the California area. This is the Los Angeles area specifically, where there's a police chase underway, and we're getting live aerial images here of that chase happening as we speak. This is going to be north of LA, specifically in the Sylmar neighborhood. This is just south of Santa Clarita, and as you can see, it does seem to be centered around a white SUV. Still waiting for more information from authorities out there, but we can tell you that this started as a potential chase of robbery suspects, and they believe that the person driving this SUV is one of the suspects. This chase started just before noon local time there, so just a few minutes ago by our counts here. And this is happening along southbound 5 freeway in the Stevenson Ranch area. Bear with us. We are working to get that feedback. It does sound like this pursuit went through the San Fernando Valley and then on to southbound 210 freeway in Sylmar. So once again, that's south of the Santa Clarita area. Robbery suspects being pursued here. We did get that feedback, so we'll take you there live once again. And it looks as though the SUV is taking advantage of, I don't know if that's a shoulder or like an HOV lane, because they have the double lines there, but everyone else, you know, is just moving away. As you can see, all the other drivers, I mean, I haven't really seen any close calls with this SUV and any other drivers, thankfully, around. But there are, as you can see, other drivers that continue to drive here on the freeway. And yeah, it does look like maybe this is an HOV lane or some sort of express lane, because we're seeing other drivers taking to that lane. So once again, live images here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus of a police chase underway in the Santa Clarita Valley area. Specifically, Sylmar is where we're seeing that, the neighborhood of Sylmar north of LA, where this is underway. Started off once again as a pursuit of robbery suspect just several minutes ago here around southbound 5 freeway, and sounds like this pursuit continued through San Fernando Valley and onto southbound 210 freeway in Sylmar. Looks like, as far as the aerials here, that this is, you know, a situation where police, they're not super close. I mean, we have not that tight of a shot here on the vehicle itself, and I'm not seeing any officers in frame, and looks like we've got somewhat of a tracker on the potential speed of this vehicle. At some point there we see topping 90 miles per hour, getting close to 100 miles per hour, and we will keep an eye on this for you folks. We just wanted to kind of pull back the curtain too and let you know some of the other things we're keeping an eye on. It looks like it just got pretty busy here in the Live Impact News studio. Not only are we watching this, but we're also keeping an eye on a plane crash, a small plane crash that's happened in Terre Haute, Indiana. We're going to bring you those live images as soon as we can. And so we're going to turn to that right now. And obviously, if anything big and breaking happens with this police chase in California, we'll take you back there. But a bit more information about this Terre Haute crash. Happened just before 2 p.m. Terre Haute time, Terre Haute Regional Airport. We are told 2 people were on board this plane. There was a pilot and a co-pilot. Both are injured. Both are being treated at local hospitals, according to a public information officer with the Terre Haute Police Department. Sounds like there are multiple agencies responding to this scene, including National Transportation Safety Board, as you would typically expect. As far as damage, as you could see with the plane, it looks like it is laying on its back, essentially. You can see the wheels there, the landing gear up in the air. It looks like there might be some damage to the wing, potentially from impact. We're not really sure how the plane ended up in the situation. This feed just coming to us just a few moments ago, essentially showing the aftermath as we see it here. So we will keep an eye on that. Of course, we'll leave that shot up for you there on the right side of your screen. Once again, that's Terre Haute Regional Airport. 2 people on board a small plane injured after that plane went down at the airport. On the left-hand side of the screen now, we have for you in our 2-box a police chase that's underway in the Los Angeles area. We'll recap some of the information that we've gotten thus far from our affiliate out there. This started just before noon local time, so that would probably be maybe about 20 minutes or so ago. We know that this started potentially as a pursuit of robbery suspect. This was a situation where the driver, you can see, at least briefly, we were able to see some of the speed tracking in the area. The driver was going more than 100 miles per hour at certain points of this chase, but in general seems to be fluctuating around the 80, 90 mile per hour range, somewhat keeping up with traffic in that area, but also you can see as it weaves from the far left lane, which we believe is an express lane, into more of the interior lanes there of the freeway, is able to pass a lot of the cars nearby. This is the Sylmar areas where we're told this started, so that's going to be south of Santa Clarita, and the person, we're told, basically started this chase around southbound 5 freeway near Stevenson Ranch, took that pursuit, led police through the San Fernando Valley onto southbound 210 freeway, and you can see now it looks like, just based on some of the titling that our affiliate has put up as far as the location, it looks like this might be I-5 near Riverside, Rancho, Glendale, California. Just reading some of the locators that our affiliate has put up on the screen for us. So busy evening here as we get close to 4 o'clock hour on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll continue to gather more information about both of these situations. Updating some information here from the Los Angeles scene. Just a little bit more. It sounds like we don't know if there are passengers inside the white SUV, which is interesting clarification, just because we were initially hearing that potentially this was a chase of robbery suspects. So we actually still don't know for sure whether there are multiple people in the vehicle or if it's just the driver. We are also seeing here, according to California Highway Patrol, some new information about the driver, or the suspected driver in this case. CHP saying the driver has links to a case that's being investigated by the Bakersville Police Department. Apparently the pursuit began when that driver failed to yield. So perhaps this started as a normal attempt at a traffic stop, and perhaps they were able to determine that this person might have a link to a robbery case. We're still trying to get some more clarification on that. So that is just a little bit more information that we're getting from our affiliate. More on that to come. Meantime, I want to turn back there to the right side of your screen here. Once again, for folks who are just joining us here on Live Impact News, live images coming to us from Terre Haute, Indiana. We have a small plane crash at the airport there. So that's Terre Haute Regional Airport, which happened just before 2 o'clock local time. So not too long ago. We're told 2 people were on board this plane. There's a pilot and a co-pilot, both of them injured, both at the hospital right now. We don't know their extent of injuries, how serious their conditions might be, but we can see at the very least some of the damage to the plane itself. It seems to be there lying on its back. You can see its belly up. There appears to be some damage maybe to a wing, and So that will, of course, be a center of investigation for federal investigators. As we know, typically with these plane crashes, you'll have someone from FAA, NTSB coming out and taking a look at things. So multiple breaking news situations underway right now. As we get more information, we'll continue to pass it along here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here to the left-hand side of your screen, this appears now to be Los Angeles area still. So we've been watching as this driver is actually kind of slowing down a bit. And I say that in a relative term because keep in mind at one point they were topping 100 miles per hour. Now they're down into the 70s range and a little bit closer to the traffic of other, the speeds that we're seeing of the traffic around this person. It looks like they might be actually on a shoulder at this point just because I see the yellow line there. Delineating.
Yeah, I think they've run out of HOV lane.
Yeah, they've run out of HOV express lane, and now they're just driving on the shoulder at this point. I still haven't seen any police officers in frame
here. No, they're keeping really tight. But so what I'm hearing, the helicopter reporter in my ear right now, she's saying the police pursuit are not they don't have their lights flashing or anything.
Okay.
Which, as you can imagine, and now they're running into traffic. This is the big thing. A lot of these chases that we see here on Live Impact News in Los Angeles, it's on open freeway, open road.
Yeah.
This is the first one we've seen in a long time running through this much traffic. So the police are maintaining their distance. This is a very dangerous situation. I'm hearing the reporter in the helicopter right now. She's telling us she can't believe it. She doesn't why is he still on the freeway? Like what's going on?
Right.
So it's a very, very unique situation. Very, very, very dangerous, as you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point that you brought up too about, why we haven't been able to see maybe some of the officers in frame here, the fact that they're not closing in super tight. They don't have their lights on, as you mentioned. Looks like that driver's now going to attempt to get into traffic, which that's going to really slow them down. You can see they're basically crawling at this point with not a lot of option. It actually looks like some of that shoulder is kind of going away as well. There you can see one of the cruisers. Looks like we are, I was going to say, the shot's getting a little funky. We're going to hold with this as long as possible, folks, so we can show you the most of this that we can. But yeah, that person's going relatively slow at this point. I know with our 2-box, you can't see the speed tracker, but they got down to about 9 miles per hour at their slowest, and now they're...
Let's take this.
Oh, okay. They're going 60 now. Let's listen in. We've got some live reporting from the chopper there in LA.
In a robbery earlier today, and our new haul units did locate that vehicle and ensued in a pursuit.
Do you have any information where the robbery occurred? What kind of robbery?
Unfortunately, I do not have those details.
So what do you do in a situation like this when you have robbery suspects? Obviously, they're desperate to get away. How do you keep the public safe in this situation?
We continue to pursue the suspect, and we'll do so until we can get him into custody.
Isabel, can you confirm that there is only one person inside this vehicle, or do we believe that there could be another person inside?
Unfortunately, I do not have the details at the moment on how many individuals are inside the vehicle.
At what point will you guys decide to pull back?
Definitely when the safety of the public is, that's the main priority. So if we notice that maybe we're, off the freeway in a residential area or around schools, that's when we would hold back. Or if we know the identity of the suspect, we would no longer pursue. There's a lot of different variables and changing factors in a situation like this, and of course the public safety is the main concern.
But we see him on the freeway driving at these high rates of speed here. Will you at any point pull back from this, even if he continues driving on the freeway?
Ultimately, it's going to be the officer's discretion, right? Does he perceive that the safety of the public is is in danger. If so, we may need to.
All right, we'll continue watching with you. Isabel Diaz from CHP, thank you so much for adding some context to this from the department. We want to switch back to Julia Ding. She's a News Chopper 4 and has been following this pretty much since it all started around Magic Mountain. We understand robbery suspects in this vehicle. Newhall police spotted them, and so now this has continued and going at speeds of over 100 miles per hour at some point. But now we're seeing much more traffic. And look at this.
Just hit an SUV right in front of it. Another white SUV still southbound on the 5. Look at that. Both cars still going. Does not look badly damaged, but it definitely just hit the back bumper of that white SUV.
This could ramp
and this
things up,
pursuit
Julia.
driver is just squeezing on by, continuing southbound down the 5. But that's exactly what we were just talking about with Isabel Diaz, how dangerous these pursuits can get. And I don't envy their position having to make decisions about when to call these off and how to do so, because you have to make those decisions so quickly, because that's how fast these pursuits move. And that crash fortunately happened when this driver was not moving quite as quickly as it was earlier, because there's so much traffic right now, but the driving behavior has not changed.
Okay,
this is the longest I've seen this driver stopped for on the southbound 5 since we got over it. I'm going to zoom out and show you the ground units behind it. They haven't really closed this gap. They've been maintaining quite a bit of the distance behind this white SUV for the duration of this pursuit, but you caught a glimpse of the helicopter over it again. LAPD now has their helicopter over this. They're tracking this driver as he continues down the 5. And look at that driver moving out of the way because they see this coming. It's been enough time now. I imagine other drivers on the freeway know this is happening. They know this pursuit driver is coming down the 5 freeway, and they just have not made any moves to get off the 5 or to give it up.
Again, this driver keeps going back to the shoulder. That could also mess up one of its tires. We do know that there's some nails. There's a bunch of stuff that's on that shoulder that oftentimes will destroy a car's tires. So that is that's a tricky situation there. But we did see that SUV hit another SUV. I believe that SUV just went off to the side, pulled over, which is good. But yeah, at one point, and that's what I asked
right over there.
You've got to
you saw that light-colored sedan that veered out of the way. Look at how this driver is going. I mean, he's right on that line. He's coming up so close on all these other cars. Some of them are swerving out of the way. Others, they probably don't know this is a pursuit. But Annabelle, literally, as you were talking about nails and debris in the shoulder, I saw something flying out from under the wheels of this car. So I don't know if this has sustained tire damage already. I do know that when they set up spike strips earlier near the 14 on the southbound 5, this driver did not drive over the spikes. So I haven't heard additional chatter about CHP attempting to set up additional spikes. I don't know what their strategy is at this point. I think they're still trying to figure out who's in this car, if there are passengers in this white SUV being pursued, wanted for burglary. But they're trailing behind it right now. They're maintaining that distance and keeping an eye from overhead from the LAPD airship.
Julie, I do see it that it's kind of bouncing a little. I don't know if that's normal or not because of the speed that it's going, but I did notice that. So I don't know if maybe it could have a fractured, blown out tire there. Possibly, and we're going to try our best to take a peek from the other side as it slows down as we come up on traffic here. It looks like this is transitioning. We're in Boyle Heights now, East LA. Looks like this might be transitioning from the 5 to the 10. But you're right, Annabelle. I see it bouncing a little bit. If I had to guess, I would say it's the front passenger side tire that might have sustained damage when this SUV drove over something in the shoulder when it was still southbound on the 5. But you see it finally crossing over now to the right side of the freeway. I don't know what that means. I don't know if this driver is preparing to finally give it up, if they might be running out of fuel. Oh, and look at that. Back on the left side now. I think he was just weaving around traffic, looking for a way out. But CHP, I think they might be closing the gap now. I see these black and white speeding up just a little bit, so I'm going to stay wide. We don't know what their strategy is, but they're definitely still in hot pursuit. I don't believe I see their flashing lights on, but now on the right side of the freeway, might be exiting the 10 now. We're now in Boyle Heights, East LA. And again, this started near Santa Clarita, coming up dangerously close behind that black SUV. And it hit the brakes just in time, avoided a second crash here, but we caught that first one live when it rammed into the back of a white SUV. We are now westbound on the 10 freeway, westbound on the 10 after traveling southbound down the 5 from Magic Mountain.
And they may be seeing the same thing we're seeing. You're seeing that car, that SUV, a little bit out of control, maybe fishtailing a little bit. You were talking about bouncing. They might be seeing that, and that's why they want to close the gap right now.
Yeah, it could definitely have some type of punctured wheel there because it was driving on that shoulder. So we know that there is a lot of debris on that shoulder. But yeah, it's traveled from the 5 freeway from near Magic Mountain area, past the 134, past the 170, of course, as well. But now then past the 110, Julia, and got onto the 10 freeway?
That's right. It went through that East LA interchange, really busy area. Now it's westbound on the 10 freeway, and there is quite a bit more traffic on the West 10 than on the South 5. And this driver, I think it just hit yet another car. This is westbound on the 10, and look at how it's driving. It was another minor fender bender, but it definitely hit the back of this white car.
Why do this when you can change lanes? I don't understand.
I think this driver is having some trouble with the car. Okay, I'm seeing some movement now. I'm wondering if this driver might be making an attempt here to bail very soon.
Julia, can you open
now
up
he's on the move again.
Just widen up a little, yeah. Just wanted to see, because this driver could have gone to the right side, to the right lane, and chose not to. So what happens to the car
when we try and figure out why they do what they do, right? Like, why do that? This doesn't make sense. If he's trying to stop, he could pull over on the right side. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to this driving behavior anymore, but this is still going westbound on the 10 now, and I'm about to lose count, but I think it was 2 crashes, 1 near miss. And this driver has not stopped for any of these accidents. And I think the drivers who were hit, they all looked shocked. That first one, that other white SUV that was hit on the South 5, they stopped. And I think they were expecting this other driver who hit them to pull over, but that absolutely did not happen. This is still going. And we are now passing Alameda on the West 10 after this went through the East LA interchange.
All right. Thank you so much, Julia. We're going to stay with your picture right now. We'll get back to you in just a moment. It so happens we have one of our reporters. We have NBC4 Jonathan Gonzalez. He is actually just a little ways behind this pursuit. Jonathan, what are you seeing? What can you add?
Yeah, so we were in the Griffith Park area working on a story, Kathy, when we were watching the pursuit on the NBCLA app, and we saw how close it was getting. So my photographer, Jorge, and I, we jumped in the van, and we decided to get on. We were just about a half mile behind the chase when we first jumped on the 5 freeway, just past the 134 there in the Griffith Park area, and we saw several units on the ground, including motor officers, chasing behind it. But, you know, as you've seen in the last several minutes, that driver using the shoulder was able to cut through traffic that we're simply not able to legally or safely. So the driver is now in that East LA area, you know, passing Boyle Heights, I think, you know, just last check in El Sereno. So we're probably 3 to 4 miles behind it, but, you know, we're going to continue following this area. But what we can tell you is that there's a lot of traffic right now, and that is certainly because of this chase. You see the driver is able to move and weave and through all these cars. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a lot of cars right now on the ground, and that's all because, you know, the CHP is just up ahead of us, and people are, you know, heeding to the officers' lights and sirens right now.
Jonathan, did you at any point drive by this driver?
Not at all, no. Unfortunately, we hopped on just as it was passing the area, but that's when we saw, as Julia was referencing, the LAPD chopper finally come into view. Initially, all we saw were the news choppers. We saw our news chopper 4 flying overhead. That was the first chopper I saw. And then you started seeing an LAPD chopper flying at high speeds to try to catch up to the chase and finally get overhead.
What about ground units? Any past you or any lights and sirens?
We did. Yeah, we saw CHP SUVs, some ground, you know, typical ground units. We also saw one motor officer using the shoulder, just like the chase suspect was using to try to get away from units on the ground. So it was interesting that they're using the same tactic as the person who is leading this chase right now to try to catch up.
You know, what's interesting, Jonathan, is that while you were talking, we believe we saw this white SUV sideswipe somebody else's mirror. So it has already hit 2 vehicles and now sideswiped a mirror from another car. So again, this is a dangerous situation for anybody who's on the road right now. And you've got to wonder, when will they pull out?
And you guys, I can't stress enough, there's always traffic at this time, especially in these areas near downtown, on the 10 freeway. You would think at around noon, 12:30 on any given day, there's not a lot of traffic. That is certainly not the case. That's why this person continues to use the shoulder as I'm watching along with you in a very dangerous manner. I did think we would see that white vehicle that the driver crashed into from behind. We did not see that vehicle, unfortunately, but hopefully they're doing okay. But yeah, this thing needs to come to an end. They're just going to only hit more traffic as the chase progresses.
And can you imagine what that driver was thinking? The person who is being pursued here had an option to go to the right, to choose another lane, but then just bumped into that car. That's 3 so far, as you were saying, 1 mirror off. You have to imagine, yeah, they're going to stop and think someone just hit me, you know, a little fender bender, but no, it just takes off and you see CHP behind them. Jonathan, we're seeing right now, I don't know if you're watching along with us, I think you are now, it's pretty trafficky right now, and that's when the driver gets even more desperate.
Absolutely. And, you know, the shoulder tends to come and go depending on where it is. Here, where we are, you know, the chase was maybe in this area 5 minutes ago where we're driving now in the Boyle Heights area. The shoulder tends to end in certain spots, and that's why you saw that driver being forced to move away from the middle divider there, and that's when those crashes were happening. And so, you know, we're just hoping that this all comes to an end, and we're getting on the 10 freeway now. We're transitioning onto the 10 East, so hopefully we can catch it. They're just ahead of us, maybe 2 to 3 miles.
All right, and you are seeing on your screen, a split screen there. You see it there. That was the first car that we saw that this SUV hit. Another, so that SUV, you saw 2 white SUVs there. And then a few minutes later, it hit another car. So again, it's a dangerous situation. This driver is just weaving in and out of these traffic lanes, mainly driving on that shoulder whenever, Jonathan, you mentioned that the shoulder comes and goes here, but you clearly see it has been taking advantage of the shoulder whenever it is available. But again, I've been noticing that it's been bouncing quite a bit, and I don't know if if the driver's tire is messed up, has a punctured tire there, but we're closely monitoring it. Of course, we also see those tinted windows, so we still can't confirm if there's only one person inside that car or if there's somebody else in there.
Yeah, right now we see it on the 10. Right now we just passed Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's slowing down right now. And this is unusual for us to see the driver sort of just staying behind traffic.
You see those units passing by it.
Yeah, now making a lane change here, and we'll see if they decide what they decide to do. We have an airship above monitoring this. This is one of the few times we've been able to kind of see into the window. Some of the back windows very tinted, so we're not able to see what's in there. But we know it's robbery suspects that are being pursued right now, so authorities are going to want to be extra careful.
You got to wonder, will officers stop traffic at some point? Just try to hold back this driver and see what happens, because again, this is a dangerous situation. This driver has been driving really fast, but look at this, what's going on here.
Yeah, so someone is changing lanes and blocking that driver right now as they widen out from Julia Schott to get a look at what's going on through traffic. There we are on the vehicle right now, and what we have seen so far, Annabelle and Jonathan, 3 little accidents where this driver has just been so desperate that they have hit the back of cars, and 1 mirror, 1 car was sideswiped. So a lot of damage out here, high speeds, very dangerous to the public, and the CHP and the LAPD overhead wanting to get this to an end.
All right, Julia Dang, are you with us?
Yeah, and I'm back with you now. This is still westbound on the 10, and yeah, as Jonathan was talking, we saw this SUV sideswipe yet another vehicle. If I recall, it was that dark-colored pickup truck, and I'm getting some more information now. No confirmation yet, but I'm hearing chatter that CHP might have spotted a rifle, a weapon inside of this vehicle. So we've been trying to get a clearer shot. We have not seen any passengers, haven't heard anything about additional occupants. For now, it's just the driver we know who's wanted suspected for burglary, and then I'm hearing this male driver might have something on his face, possibly a hoodie, possibly some kind of mask, but the back windows of this SUV are darkly tinted. We can't see anything. We just see his arm right now. You can see it's visible through that driver's side window, but yeah, multiple accidents already, and this driver has made no moves to pull over. CHP was talking about running a traffic brake when this was still southbound on the 5. I haven't heard additional chatter about that now that it's westbound on the 10. We're crossing through the West Adams area right now, and there is pretty significant traffic up ahead. It's definitely more jammed on the 10 than it was on the southbound 5, so they may not need to run a traffic brake. Something is going to happen where either this driver runs out of fuel or he comes up on such heavy traffic he has no choice but to come to a stop or exit. And look at that speedometer in the bottom left-hand corner of our screen. This is down to about 70 miles per hour now. I mean, freeway speeds, but nothing compared to what this driver was doing before, about 100 miles per hour when we were following this down the 5 freeway.
And Julie, you mentioned that there was some chatter about a rifle being in the vehicle?
That's right. CHP believes this burglary suspect they've been pursuing since it was coming down the 5 in Magic Mountain might have some kind of weapon. No confirmation yet, but that is the chatter that we've been hearing on the CHP scanner.
All right, Julia, thank you. We're going to check in with Jonathan Gonzalez. He is there in traffic, happened to be covering another story in the Griffith Park area, and then saw this pursuit, got on the road with his photographer, Jorge Diaz, and they were pretty close behind this pursuit at one time. Jonathan, where are you now?
We are now on the 10 westbound. We initially were on the 10. We're heading toward the 10 eastbound. We realized that the 10 westbound is where this driver is and still driving there on the shoulder. We do see some CHP units at several different exits. And we do see traffic starting to build up ahead of us again, likely because the chase is just a couple miles away. I would say we're in the downtown area, coming up near USC, approaching the San Pedro Street exit. And I see that the driver at last check is in the West Adams area. So, again, maybe just 2 to 3 miles behind. Don't think we're going to catch it as this driver continues at high speeds, but they're only going to hit more and more traffic as we approach the 405. And so we're going to try our best to see how close we can get to this chase, obviously in a safe manner. And you know, by that time, Kathy and Annabelle, hopefully this has come to an end. This is a very dangerous situation. As you mentioned, Kathy, earlier, so many people on the freeway, they don't even know what's coming. And the drivers who've been hit by this driver, they quite literally don't even know what hit them. They're hit. They're trying to figure out if they're okay, if their car's okay, and this driver is gone. And that's what makes this so dangerous. That's what makes this such a precarious situation, how quickly this person, with no regard for others on the road, thankfully, though, you can still see those CHP units there on the ground right behind him.
Jonathan, and I was just going to ask you whether or not, I mean, just from your advantage point there and driving with everybody else, if there's any indication. I mean, you know that there's a pursuit, but does anybody else know? I mean, do they see the CHP behind it? Do they see the helicopters? You know, that's a big question for so many.
You know, that's a great point. No, as far as if you look around, you would think everything is normal. And if I didn't know this chase was happening, I would probably think there's a chase just up ahead of us. You had no idea. People are, you know, we're going maybe 40 to 50 miles an hour at the fastest because there's just general normal traffic for the day. So, no, and I think when a chase is coming up, and this has happened to me long before I was a reporter, when a chase comes at you, it happened to me on the 110, you have no concept of what is happening. All of a sudden you see this car fly by you, and then you see several units fly past you, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's out of your vantage point. And so that's what makes it so dangerous in these situations, because you don't even have time to react in certain moments. Now, every now and then you will see a driver try to block the driver. We never want to get involved in a chase. Officers stress that all the time, but if you're just driving, this is why you've got to be on alert at all times. Someone could be just zooming up behind you, and that could be a chase.
And Jonathan, you were on the NBCLA app. You could see what's going on. You were on this so quickly, you said you actually saw the police helicopter arriving to do surveillance.
Yeah, so we initially heard, I got out of the van because we knew it was approaching the Griffith Park area. That's where we were doing our story. And we heard News Chopper 4. I looked up, I could identify it right away. And News Chopper 4 and Julia, they were right overhead. And all of a sudden, from seemingly out of nowhere, at a very low altitude, we saw the LAPD chopper approaching the chase. It was not over it at that point. It was certainly trying to catch up. And that's when we realized, oh, here it is. It's arrived. It got here before we knew it. We hopped on the freeway right there by the zoo, and we've been following it ever since.
All right, and you see that split screen there moments ago. You see that side swipe coming up right there. You see it. So that was the most recent incident that we saw involving this SUV. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at that left front tire. It looks really low to me, and I don't know if it's a flat tire.
Oh, it's very
now.
low. It looks flat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That left side in the front is flat, and that's what Julia was talking about. She was pointing out she thought it was something to do with the front. Annabelle, you said it seemed bouncy. There it goes, and I thought it looked a little fishtaily, so definitely having some maneuverability issues now, and that absolutely looks flat. However, we have seen vehicles continue on flat tires before, and so that does not mean this is over just yet.
No, and you've got to wonder, at what point will this driver just pull over and give himself up? Again, we don't know how many people are inside this vehicle. We do know that there's at least one person, and we've been hearing chatter, according to Julia Dang, just a chatter that she's been hearing from officers, that there was a rifle, that this person could have a rifle in that vehicle. So we're trying to get more information. Our team is definitely trying to gather some more information.
Yeah, we also understand this may be linked to something that happened in Bakersfield, so we do have calls in to find out what that's all about. We do know robbery suspects. We know this was supposedly a traffic stop. Car took off, and that happened earlier around 12 o'clock. Let's check in with Jonathan Gonzalez again. He has been behind this pursuit. He was covering a different story, but then heard about this and got right on it. Jonathan.
Yeah, so as I'm watching along with you, we do see that left front tire, the driver's side tire, now flat. You can only imagine how much more difficult that makes it for the driver to maneuver that large vehicle. And you're hoping that that's a sign that this is maybe starting to wrap up here. I'll let you guys. What are you guys seeing?
We're seeing the tire, parts of the tire just literally fall off. The wheels are coming off right now, and he's pulling over to the side.
Yeah, tire is shredded. This pursuit, I think, is finally coming to an end. You saw that front tire, the one that we zoomed in on. I just put the doubler on this a couple minutes ago because we were talking about how it looked flat, and you can see now it is completely shredded, and this driver is now pulled over on the side of the 10 West. I'm going to zoom out, and we should see CHP ground units coming up on this now. Yeah, this pursuit is over. This driver could not continue driving like that, but just moments before the tire rolled off the car, he was still traveling about 40, 50 miles per hour west on the 10.
Pretty dangerous at those speeds when you have that tire situation. Now, Julia, we're seeing the CHP in position. These are the vehicles that have been following. So now what they're going to do is make contact. I see an arm out the side of the window, and looks like they're going to open the door.
Yeah, they've got this driver at gunpoint. You saw that arm. You see this driver now complying, getting out of this SUV after quite a lengthy pursuit that we heard when it was in Santa Clarita. It was southbound on the 5 and then westbound on the 10. We're now in the Culver City area.
All right, we're having some trouble there, some connection with Julia Dang, but we're using Julia's audio. Julia, you're back with us?
Hey, Annabelle, back with you. You can see this driver giving it up, backing up towards CHP now. Massive police response here on the westbound side of the 10. This is in Culver City, just east of Overland.
And we had heard robbery suspects, so they're going to want to, as they do anyway, search that vehicle and give the all clear, correct?
Absolutely. That's what officers are going to do now, now that they have the driver safely in custody. But this is going to be a full freeway break here. And let me zoom back in on the white SUV, this pursuit vehicle. I don't see additional movement in it. I don't see the passenger side door opening. But you see this CHP officer coming up, guns drawn. And they're absolutely going to check this vehicle now and make sure there's nobody else inside and check it for weapons.
We also want to bring in our Jonathan Gonzalez, who has been following this chase from the ground. Jonathan, what are you experiencing from the car?
Well, the backing up is now, the backup rather from the traffic from the end of this pursuit is now hitting us. We're approaching Crenshaw, so we're about 3 to 4 miles from Overland, which is just before the 405 and 10 freeway interchange there. So we will be approaching this in the next few minutes. The question is how close we can get, because we're going to be stuck behind the fact that this chase stopped. There are multiple units there on the ground. The freeway is shut down on the westbound side right now where we are headed. So we're starting to see the brake lights that slow down. We're now going maybe 25, 30 miles per hour at most, and we're going to be stuck behind some traffic just behind this chase. But thankfully, this has come to a stop. And as you know, people, you mentioned, Annabelle, people may not even realize this is happening, and suddenly you're stuck behind 5, 6 CHP units with their guns drawn, trying to take someone into custody, and that's always a frightening situation. In many ways, yes, it's another day in LA, because chases tend to happen so often here, but it's never any less scary when you're seeing it in person like this for the first time.
No, and it's quite the response here today, Jonathan. They gave the all clear for the vehicle, so it looks like there was only one person after all. So hopefully they'll be able to get this clear. They'll be able to get those people on the way. Right now we're seeing them take that person into custody, and we'll find out, I'm sure, from officers later on exactly what all the details were in this that started just about over an hour ago. Magic Mountain and Newton Division tried to pull this person over. The chase began, and Annabelle, we saw speeds up to 100 miles per hour through traffic at the noon hour.
Yeah, that's right. And so we've been monitoring the situation, but look at that backup. This is some bad news for all of these drivers who are just trying to get to their destination. Again, this is the 10 freeway. Am I mistaken here? Am I correct?
This is the 10 freeway. I'm panning the camera east right now. This is going to be on the westbound side of the 10 at Overland, and traffic is backed up now for miles because they've got the westbound side completely shut down for the termination of this pursuit. If you want to get around it, your best bet is probably going to be Venice Boulevard. You can see cars exiting there, but I'm panning back west, back to where this pursuit has come to an end. And yes, it was just the driver in that white SUV. They checked it. They gave the all clear, no passengers, and you can see that driver wearing the white T-shirt being put in the back of a squad car here.
Julia, I counted about 9 units behind this car.
Yeah, 9 units, and then you've got that motorcycle pulling up, and then don't forget about the LAPD helicopter overhead that Jonathan spotted, and big thanks to Jonathan for helping out with our coverage from the ground. I can't remember the last time we had one of our NBC News vans on the ground behind a pursuit as News Chopper 4 was flying over it, but this is going to be the traffic that he's sitting in now if he is westbound on the 10 freeway, and for this to be happening in the afternoon, I mean, this is just not ideal. So again, this was southbound on the 5 before going through the East LA interchange, and then west on the 10, and it has finally come to a stop here in Culver City. But to get around this.
Okay, folks, you've been watching live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Coverage from our affiliate out in Los Angeles as a police chase of a robbery suspect has come to a close, as far as we could tell, without any injuries or significant damage, although we can't say no damage because, as we watched over approximately the last hour or so, this 30-mile pursuit from the Santa Clarita area down to Culver City, we did see that white SUV at points clipping and or lightly rear-ending other vehicles on the freeway. So once again, this started just before noon local time, so that would be around 3 o'clock our time here on the East Coast. There was a notification that CHP had to be on alert for a potential robbery suspect. There was the white SUV that was flagged as a potential issue, and so patrol was on alert for this person. And as we showed you here throughout this 3 o'clock hour, that person getting up over speeds of 100 miles per hour. And kind of strangely enough to see speeds as low as 9 miles per hour as that driver encountered pockets of traffic. But as you just saw just a few moments ago here on Live Impact News, that driver getting out of the SUV after their tire essentially deflated, looks like they either deflated and ran out of gas, but nevertheless, they were unable to drive any farther. They got out of the vehicle with their hands up over their head, and they surrendered to CHP. So we will get you updates, of course, as we learn more about the situation, but it does look like that has come to a safe conclusion there in the Los Angeles area. So with that, we want to turn back to a forum that we've been keeping an eye on. Oh, okay. Well, looks like we've got some radar impacts to show you here out of This is the Minnesota area. Okay, so we do know that there's some severe weather potential that is in the area of Minnesota and Wisconsin today. Folks will be under a tornado watch until 8 o'clock their time. A couple bands are moving through. Looks like we're in the midst of one right now, with a second one to move through around 7 o'clock in the evening, our time. We want to listen in now. It looks like there could be tornado warnings in this area, and we'll come back, of course, with any new breaking information on other fronts.
Is right about here, about to cross I-94. This is not one of those gigantic supercell thunderstorms. This is probably a quick spin-up tornado, which still can do some damage. But right now, the worst part of the storm is about to cross I-94 just east of the Melrose area. There's Albany, and again, St. Cloud is further to the east, and the storm is moving north. So after it crosses I-94, it'll push deeper into northern Stearns County and eventually cross the county line into Todd County within the next 10-15 minutes or so.
Yeah, so we'll watch that. We'll get more information from the spotters. There are spotters that are across the state right now with this scenario. So we're going to toss it to Julie. We're going to get an update on the airport. Julie?
Yeah, we had mentioned that there had been a ground stoppage at MSP as this line went right over the airport. Fortunately, no reports of anything going wrong with any of the flights, but many of them were delayed. Many of them are still delayed at this time, but they have just lifted that ground stoppage at MSP. So if you are expecting someone who's flying in or you yourself are flying out, make sure you check with your airline, because they did have quite a disruption there at the airport because of these storms. Happy to hear that the storms are moving quickly and now out of the metro. But unfortunately, it does sound like this is all moving and the conditions are going to remain ripe for, as you heard, quick tornado spin-ups because the dew point is so high. We have Raya Katene in Mobile 11. She's heading toward western Wisconsin, where it looks like these storms are heading as well. What are you seeing, Raya?
Yeah, we are moving in that same direction, you guys, and we've heard Bell and Ben say time and time again, this is a quickly moving system, and that's exactly what we're experiencing. I'm going to flip this around so you can take a look. Right now, we're headed northeast. We're on 694 north, just passing through Woodbury. Now we're in Oakdale, and just a few moments ago, as we were passing through Woodbury, we got hit by some really heavy rain, but as you all have been saying, things are moving very quickly here, and so just a few minutes later, now we're back to this, a light drizzle still, a lot of cars on the road, but they are taking things pretty slowly, it looks like, and that's why we're traveling at that slow speed as well. I did see a car that was pulled over a few minutes ago as well on the side of the road, so if it's getting too dangerous or not clear enough for you to see or anything like that, of course, feel free to pull over as well. But as you mentioned, we're heading towards western Wisconsin now, still on 694 north, so we're headed in the same direction as the system, and as we move along, we'll keep you guys updated on what we're seeing. Back to you.
All right, we're going back to Belinda. They're talking about 2 tornado warnings. Sorry, we'll get her mic working for you.
All right, there it is. Thank you. We do have 2 new tornado warnings that are across the southern portion of the metro and the eastern portion of the metro. So let's show you what's going on. We have one that is in Pierce County until 3:15. We have that tornado warning that you can see just near Oak Grove, and that is heading toward River Falls. So we do have that moving to the north and east, and we also have one that is to the south of Lake City. That is in Buffalo and Wabasha County, and that is until 3:30. So we do have 2 new tornado warnings that are on the tail end of this line that has been moving through the metro. So they are intensifying as they're moving into an atmosphere that is ripe. And you can kind of see, look at how that one cell there in Pierce County has really intensified. Ben, right there.
We do have some video out of Spring Hill, which did have a tornado reported, a weak tornado reported in the Spring Hill area, and I do want to bring in that video if possible. It just shows the nature of these tornadoes. They're not these big, giant EF2, EF3 tornadoes. They're just these quick little spin-up tornadoes that are possible. Yeah, there's the picture right there. This is, again, just southwest of Spring Hill, quick little spin-up tornado, and that's what we expect the majority of these to be, at least over the next hour. That's what it appears.